In the heart of a sleepless night, Daniel lay staring at the ceiling. The room was quiet, but his mind was loud, a torrent of unfinished tasks, missed deadlines, unspoken worries, and silent comparisons. The glow of his phone blinked softly on the nightstand, a cruel reminder of messages he didn't want to read and news he didn't want to know. He had everything by society's standards: a stable job, a nice apartment, a gym membership, even a therapist on speed dial, but he felt like a hollow shell, living a life that never quite felt like his. The harder he tried to relax, the more tense he became. He had read about sleep hygiene, tried guided meditations, even drank warm almond milk with lavender. Still, sleep would not come. There was a dull ache behind his eyes, but deeper still, something within him was restless, a part that refused to let go. This is not just Daniel's story. It's the quiet suffering of millions. In a world that moves faster each day, where success is often mistaken for self-worth and productivity replaces presence, many find themselves locked in a constant state of doing, achieving, performing while quietly losing touch with the essence of simply being. Anxiety becomes the soundtrack of our inner life. Rest becomes a rare visitor, and the ego, the voice that says, "I must do more, I must be more," reigns unchecked, wearing different masks: fear of failure, craving for praise, obsession with control. But what if sleep true, healing sleep, is not just about closing our eyes, but about letting go? What if the key to deep rest lies not in trying harder, but in surrendering more? What if peace is not something we need to search for, but something we simply need to remember? This is where the ancient wisdom of Buddhism offers something timeless and deeply human. At the heart of the Buddha's teaching is the understanding that suffering arises from clinging to identity, to desire, to ego, and that liberation is possible, not through escaping life, but by seeing clearly, by awakening to pure awareness, the silent, spacious presence beneath all thought, all roles, all noise. In this journey, we invite you to gently explore a different kind of sleep, not a sleep of numbness or escape, but a return, a soft falling back into your natural state, into the open sky of awareness that has never been touched by anxiety or ego. Through stories, reflections, and ancient parables, we'll walk a path together away from the burden of becoming and toward the freedom of simply being. This is not a promise of instant transformation. It is an invitation to let go of the self you've been taught to protect and rediscover the stillness that was always there. To sleep, not just with closed eyes, but with an open heart. To rest, not just the body, but the soul. To find, in the quiet of the night, the peace that no noise can disturb, the peace of pure awareness. There is a story told in many Buddhist traditions about a man who dreamed he was a butterfly. As he floated from flower to flower, he felt weightless, joyful, utterly free. Then he awoke, and he was himself again, a man, with his name, his responsibilities, his regrets. But a question haunted him. Was he a man who dreamed he was a butterfly, or a butterfly now dreaming he was a man? This story, as simple as it sounds, touches the very heart of Buddhist insight. The ego self, the I we believe ourselves to be, is not as solid, permanent, or real as we think. From the moment we're born, we begin to build an identity. We are given a name, a nationality, a family story. We are told who we are, what to believe, how to behave. And over time, like a potter shaping clay, we mold our sense of self out of memories, opinions, achievements, and wounds. We learn to say, "I am this," and "I am not that." "I am successful," "I am broken," "I am lovable," "I am not enough." But who is the I underneath all these labels? Can you find it? The Buddha taught that the ego, known in Pali as atta, is a mental fabrication. It is a useful tool for navigating the world, but it is not the true self. In fact, Buddhism asserts that there is no fixed, unchanging self to be found. This teaching is called anatta, non-self. To a modern mind, especially one shaped by individualism and personal development, this may sound unsettling. If I am not my thoughts, not my feelings, not even my personality, then who am I? But let's pause here. Not to analyze, but to gently feel. Close your eyes for a moment, take a breath, then ask inwardly, without trying to answer, who is breathing this breath? Watch the question ripple across your awareness like a pebble dropped into still water. Don't rush to explain. Simply be with the space that opens. The ego hates that space. It fears silence. It feeds on roles, identities, labels, conflicts, desires. It is constantly performing either for others or for the inner critic it mistakes for truth. It needs problems to solve, victories to claim, enemies to blame, and always something to fix or improve. But who watches the ego perform? That watcher, that silent, observing awareness is not your ego. It is what remains when the story of me quiets down. It does not need to prove anything. It does not grasp or resist. It simply sees. That awareness is your true refuge. It cannot be injured by criticism or inflated by praise. It has no nationality, no age, no gender, no wound. It is not bound by the past or threatened by the future. It is the pure awareness the Buddha pointed to, the clear knowing behind every moment, every thought, every breath. Imagine for a moment that your life is a stage play. The ego is the actor, wearing masks, now a parent, now an employee, now a victim, now a hero. The roles are always changing, but the actor thinks each role is the real one. Until one day, the actor pauses mid-scene, steps back, and realizes, none of these roles are me. I am the presence behind them all. In Buddhist terms, we suffer because we cling to the actor and forget the presence. We believe the ego's stories, that we are unworthy unless we achieve, that we are unloved unless we conform, that we are separate from others, and thus must defend ourselves at all costs. These beliefs tighten the body, cloud the mind, and strangle the spirit. And so, night after night, we lie in bed replaying the day's dramas, haunted by what went wrong or what could go wrong next. We sleep with the armor still on, but what if the armor isn't needed? What if the self we are protecting isn't even real? There is an ancient Buddhist parable that speaks to this. A man is walking through the forest and sees a tiger. He runs for his life and falls off a cliff, managing to grab a vine mid-fall. Above him, the tiger growls. Below him, another tiger waits at the bottom. Two mice begin to gnaw at the vine. Then he notices a wild strawberry growing from the cliff. He picks it, eats it, and smiles. How sweet it tastes. This story is not about foolishness, but freedom. In that moment, the man is not worrying about past mistakes or future tigers. He is not clinging to an identity as victim or hero. He simply tastes life, as it is raw, fleeting, beautiful. That presence, that freedom, comes when we stop believing the ego's story and return to awareness. Letting go of the ego is not a rejection of who you are. It is the beginning of discovering who you truly are, beyond the mask. But how do we let go? Not by force, not by rejecting the ego, which only creates more inner conflict. We begin by seeing it gently, clearly, compassionately. We notice when the ego is trying to control, compare, criticize. We watch its patterns, its voice. We don't fight it. We don't obey it. We simply observe, like watching clouds drift across the sky. Over time, its grip loosens. The sky awareness remains untouched. In daily life, this might mean pausing before reacting, taking a breath when you're about to defend yourself, questioning the inner voice that says, I can't relax until I finish this, or I'm not good enough. It means allowing yourself to rest, even when the ego says you haven't earned it. It means closing your eyes at night and whispering inwardly, I don't need to be anything right now. Not a success, not a failure, just here. The irony is that when we let go of the ego's need to prove, to control, to be special, we become free to act from love, from clarity, from peace. We sleep more deeply, not because all problems are solved, but because we no longer cling to the identity of the problem solver. Daniel, from our opening story, eventually reached a point of exhaustion, not just physical, but spiritual. One night, in desperation, he sat upright and whispered, I don't know who I am anymore. For the first time in a long time, he didn't try to fix it. He simply allowed the question to hang in the silence. Something shifted. The need to define, to be right, to win it softened. He lay back down, not as the achiever or the anxious thinker, but simply as a presence wrapped in stillness. And that night, he slept, not because he had solved anything, but because he had, in a small and quiet way, let go. Letting go of the ego is not an end. It is the beginning of returning to the ground of being, the ever-present awareness that was never born and can never die. It is the beginning of peace, not as a concept, but as a lived experience. In the next chapter, we will explore what it means to awaken to that pure awareness, to live and sleep from the spaciousness that is always here, beneath the noise of thought. But for now, simply remember this: you are not your thoughts. You are not your name. You are not your achievements, your wounds, your roles. You are the stillness that sees. You are the space where peace arises. And in that space, you are already free. Let the ego rest. Let the story pause. Let yourself be. And perhaps, tonight, sleep will come not as a struggle, but as a homecoming. There is a quiet beneath all the noise. A silence so vast, it holds the rise and fall of all things: your thoughts, your breath, your hopes, your pain. This quiet has always been with you. Not outside, but within. And yet, most of us spend our lives skimming the surface of our experience, never sinking into the depth of what is always here. This depth is what many spiritual traditions, including Buddhism, point to as pure awareness. It is not something you achieve. It is not something you learn. It is what you return to when everything else falls away. Like the sky that remains untouched no matter how many clouds pass through it, pure awareness is that which simply is vast, open, present. In the previous chapter, we explored the illusion of the ego self, the roles and identities we construct to feel secure in a chaotic world. But once we begin to see through that illusion, the natural question arises: if I am not this self I've always believed in, then what am I? The answer is not a concept. It is an experience. And it begins not with thinking, but with noticing. Consider this moment right now. You are hearing these words. Perhaps your mind is following, perhaps it wanders. Thoughts come and go, sensations arise and fade. But what is it that is aware of all of this? What is the space in which all experience is happening? That space, that knowing, is not a thought, not a feeling, not a label. It is awareness itself. It is what hears the thoughts without becoming them, what sees the emotion without collapsing into it. It is like the mirror that reflects all things, but is never stained by what it reflects. The Buddha called this Vijnana consciousness, or more deeply, Pabhasara Chitta, the radiant mind, naturally luminous and pure. In the Upanishads, it is described as the self that witnesses all. In Zen, it is simply suchness. And in your own direct experience, it is the stillness you glimpse in moments of wonder, or grief, or awe, when the ego momentarily dissolves, and you are simply here. There is a Zen story of a young monk who asks his teacher, "Master, how do I enter enlightenment?" The master replies, "Do you hear that mountain stream?" The monk nods. "Enter there," says the master. Pure awareness does not arrive with fanfare. It does not require years in a cave or a degree in theology. It is as near as the sound of water, the feeling of your breath, the flicker of sunlight on your skin. It is not special. It is utterly ordinary, which is why we miss it. But awakening to it can transform everything. When we are identified with the ego self, we live in contraction, always protecting, comparing, striving, fearing. But when we rest in pure awareness, even briefly, we taste freedom. We see that we are not the storm, we are the sky. We are not the drama, we are the space in which it unfolds. In practical terms, what does it mean to awaken to pure awareness? It means learning to notice without grasping. It means letting each moment be exactly as it is, without needing to improve it or escape it. It means discovering that even in the middle of chaos, there is a still point inside you that cannot be moved. You may already know this space, even if you've never named it. Have you ever been so absorbed in a sunset that for a moment, all thought vanished, or held the hand of someone dying and felt everything else fall away, or sat in silence and suddenly felt yourself dissolve into something vast and timeless? These are glimpses, doorways, invitations, and while such moments may come spontaneously, they can also be cultivated. One way is through open awareness meditation. Unlike focused attention, which centers the mind on a single object like the breath, open awareness invites us to rest in the space in which all objects arise. You sit, you breathe, And rather than chasing or resisting any experience, you simply watch. Thoughts arise, you notice. Sensations shift, you observe. A bird sings, you listen, but you don't follow. You stay as the space. It may feel difficult at first. The ego will try to reclaim center stage. It will comment, judge, compare. Let it. That too is just content. You are not the content. You are the context, the watcher. Another way to glimpse pure awareness is in the moments between thoughts. Have you noticed that between one thought ending and another beginning, there is a gap, a breath of stillness? Most of the time, we are so quick to leap from one thought to the next that we miss it. But if you slow down, truly slow down, you will feel it. A moment where nothing is missing, nothing is broken, nothing needs to be done. That moment is not empty. It is full of peace, of presence, of being. And in that fullness, you begin to realize something profound. You are already whole. You are not a problem to be solved. You are not a project to be perfected. You are a presence to be lived. There is an old Sufi tale that tells of a man who searched the world for a hidden treasure. He crossed deserts, scaled mountains, braved storms. After decades, he returned home defeated, only to find the treasure buried beneath the floor of his own house. This is the story of pure awareness. We search for peace, for freedom, for sleep that is truly restful in books, in therapy, in achievements. But the treasure is always where we are. It is not about becoming something else. It is about remembering what we already are. Of course, remembering is not always easy. The ego doesn't give up its throne quietly. It will whisper, "This is boring. This is meaningless. Go check your phone." It will dress up as spiritual ambition and say, "You should be farther along by now." Let it speak. Smile at it. Then return again and again to the simplicity of awareness. Even as you lie in bed, preparing for sleep, you can practice, not by trying to fall asleep, but by resting in being. Feel the sheets against your skin. Hear the sounds around you. Notice your breath, and then gently inquire, who is noticing? Don't answer, just feel. Let the thoughts drift like leaves on a stream. Let the body soften like earth after rain, and let awareness hold it all, quietly, like the sky holds stars. This is how sleep becomes sacred, not an escape from the self, but a return to what is not self, to the radiant stillness that is always awake, even as the body sleeps. Daniel, the man whose nights were once ruled by anxiety, began to explore this, not through elaborate practices, but through presence. Each evening, he would sit in silence for 5 minutes before bed, not to fix anything, but to notice, to feel the air, the weight of his body, the sounds outside his window, the subtle sense of, "I am." At first, it was uncomfortable. The mind rebelled, but slowly, something shifted. He realized that he didn't need to become peaceful. He only needed to stop running from the peace that was already there. And as he practiced, his sleep changed. Not immediately, not magically, but gradually. The thoughts still came, but they passed more easily. The fears still whispered, but they no longer ruled. And in the space that opened, something softer emerged, a presence that asked nothing, demanded nothing, yet gave everything. This is the invitation of pure awareness. Not to change yourself, but to come home to yourself, to the self that is not a self at all, but a spacious presence, wide as the sky, quiet as the moon, kind as the earth. Let yourself awaken not with effort, but with surrender. Not with striving, but with stillness. And in that awakening, discover a truth both ancient and new. You were never broken. You were only busy. Now you are still. And in that stillness, you are free. In the next chapter, we will begin to explore the art of letting go, not as a discipline, but as a natural expression of the awakened heart. For now, rest in the knowing that pure awareness is not a destination. It is your very nature. It is not far. It is not hidden. It is here. It is now. It is you. There is a gentle sorrow that lives in every human heart, the sorrow of holding on too tightly. We hold on to people, to memories, to identities, to the way we believe life should be. We grip so hard, sometimes without even knowing it, that our hands begin to ache, our hearts begin to harden, and our sleep begins to flee. In Buddhist teaching, This grasping is known as upadana, attachment, clinging. The Buddha described it as one of the core causes of human suffering. We suffer not because life is impermanent, but because we resist that impermanence. We want things to stay the same. We want pleasure to last forever. We want people to behave how we need them to. And when life inevitably changes, when people leave, when bodies age, when plans fall apart, we are left shattered, not just by what happened, but by our refusal to let go. Letting go is not about indifference. It's not about suppressing desire or pretending we don't care. True letting go is an act of deep wisdom and compassion. It's the recognition that everything in life is in motion, and that to live in peace, we must learn to move with it. Imagine you're holding a beautiful flower. It's delicate, fragrant, vibrant. You love it so much that you grip it tightly in your hand, afraid that it might fall or be taken away. But the tighter you hold it, the more its petals begin to bruise, its stem bends, and its beauty fades. Now imagine instead holding it gently, with open palms admiring it, breathing in its scent, knowing it will one day wilt, and yet loving it just the same. This is the difference between attachment and appreciation. One contracts, the other liberates. The Buddha told a story of a man crossing a river. To do so, he builds a raft. It serves him well, keeping him afloat as he paddles to the other shore. But once he arrives, he thinks, "This raft helped me so much, I should carry it with me wherever I go." And so, he struggles onward, burdened by the very thing that once brought him safety. This is what we do. We carry our raft's old relationships, past traumas, former versions of ourselves long after we've crossed the rivers they were meant for. We confuse what was once useful with what is still necessary. And in doing so, we block the space where life might offer something new. Letting go begins with awareness. We must first see what we are holding. Start with your thoughts. What beliefs do you carry about who you are? Are you the perfectionist, the caregiver, the one who always has to be strong? Are you still clinging to a label someone else gave you? Too sensitive, not good enough, the failure. These identities, when held too tightly, become prisons. You don't need to destroy them. You only need to question them. Ask, gently, is this true now? And if not, can I put this down? Next, look at your relationships. Are there people you hold in your heart with a grip of fear? Perhaps someone who once loved you but is no longer present, or someone who hurt you and whose memory you carry like a stone in your chest. Letting go doesn't mean erasing the love or the pain. It means no longer defining yourself by it. It means honoring what was and choosing to live in what is. Even in the realm of emotions, we cling. We cling to sadness because it feels familiar. We cling to anger because it gives us power. We cling to guilt because we believe we must atone forever. But emotions, like clouds, are meant to move. If we let them pass, they will. If we hold them tight, they settle in our bones. There's a story told in Thailand about a monk who visited a village where a woman had recently lost her son. She was inconsolable, weeping every day. No one could comfort her. Finally, the monk came and sat with her. She begged him, "Please bring my son back." He nodded and said, "I will, but first, bring me a handful of mustard seeds from a house that has never known death." Eagerly, she set off. But house after house, the answer was the same. "We too have lost someone." She returned empty, handed, but with a new understanding. Her pain was still there, but it no longer isolated her. It connected her to others. In that connection, she began to let go, not of her love, but of her resistance to the truth. Letting go is often mistaken for weakness, but in truth, it requires great courage. It is easy to hold on to habits, to grudges, to stories about who we should be. It is much harder to open our hands and trust that we will not fall apart. But the irony is, we never fall apart by letting go. We fall apart by holding on too long. Let's return for a moment to the experience of sleep. How often do you lie in bed clinging to worries about tomorrow, to regrets from today, to imagined arguments or unspoken words? Sleep, like peace, cannot be forced. It arises when we soften, when we release. The body cannot rest if the mind is holding on. There is a practice in some Buddhist traditions known as the death meditation. It may sound grim, but it is deeply liberating. Practitioners reflect on the inevitability of death not to become morbid, but to become free. When you realize that everything is passing, every breath, every moment, every relationship, you begin to live more fully. You begin to love more honestly. You begin to sleep more peacefully, knowing that nothing needs to be grasped. One young woman who had battled anxiety for years shared her experience of such a meditation. "At first, it terrified me," she said. "But then, something softened. I realized that all the things I was afraid of losing, my job, my health, my partner, I would lose them one day anyway. And yet, right now, I have them. I can enjoy them without trying to own them. I can hold them with love, not with fear. This is the essence of letting go. Not detachment, but freedom within intimacy. You can love someone and still let them be free. You can pursue your dreams and still be at peace with what unfolds. You can work hard without tying your worth to success. You can feel emotions deeply and still release them when their time is done. So how do we practice this in daily life? Start small. Each morning before rising, take a breath and say inwardly, "Today, I will hold things lightly." As you move through your day, notice where your grip tightens in traffic, in conversation, in ambition. When you feel it, pause, breathe, soften. In the evening, as you prepare for sleep, take a few minutes to reflect. Ask yourself, what am I still carrying that no longer serves me? It could be a thought, a worry, an expectation. Then, imagine setting it down beside your bed, like a heavy bag. You can pick it up again tomorrow, if you must. But for now, give yourself permission to rest without it. You might even whisper, "I let go, I let go, I let go." Not as a command, but as a lullaby, a song that rocks the mind to sleep. Daniel, our friend from before, began incorporating this into his bedtime ritual. He would sit quietly, place one hand on his heart, and name what he was holding on to: fear of failure, an argument with a coworker, the pressure to be perfect. Then he would say, "Thank you for trying to protect me, but you can rest now." And with each breath, he let the grip loosen. Over time, something began to shift. Not dramatically, not overnight, but gently. The thoughts still came, but they passed more easily. The nights were not always perfect, but they were no longer filled with war. And in those moments of peace, he began to understand. Letting go is not the end of love. It is the beginning of love without fear. Letting go does not make you less human. It makes you more present, more tender, more alive. It opens your hands to receive what life offers now. Not what once was, not what might be, but what is. In the next chapter, we will explore how mindfulness, the art of seeing clearly, helps us walk this path with steadiness and grace. But for now, may you rest in the knowing that it is safe to release. That the sky does not fall when you stop holding it up, that you are not alone, and that peace begins always with an open hand. The mind, like a restless bird, flits from branch to branch, never landing long enough to rest. One moment it is tangled in memories, the next, soaring into futures that haven't yet come. Rarely, if ever, does it sit still in the present, that simple, sacred space we so often overlook. This is the nature of an untrained mind, and it is also the source of so much of our suffering. We are rarely where our body is. We eat while thinking of work. We walk while scrolling our phones. We lie in bed while rehearsing future conversations. And then we wonder why we feel exhausted, disconnected, anxious. The Buddhist path offers a gentle but radical remedy: mindfulness. In Pali, the ancient language of the early Buddhist texts, it is called sati, awareness, presence, remembrance. Not just remembering to be present, but remembering the truth of this moment, the truth that this breath, this step, this feeling is the only life we ever truly have. Mindfulness is not a performance. It is not a technique reserved for monasteries or meditation cushions. It is a way of being, a soft returning, again and again, to what is happening now in the body, in the mind, in the world, with honesty and kindness. When we practice mindfulness, we step through a gateway away from identification with the ego and into the field of pure awareness we spoke of earlier. We stop chasing and we start noticing. We stop narrating and we start witnessing. It may sound simple, and it is, but simple is not always easy. The mind is slippery. It resists stillness. It prefers the familiar grooves of distraction and control. But mindfulness doesn't demand perfection. It invites practice. Gentle, loving, ongoing practice. Consider this. You are sipping a cup of tea. You feel the warmth of the cup against your fingers. The steam rises and touches your face. You smell the earthiness of the leaves. You take a sip and you actually taste it. For a moment, you are completely here, not rushing, not analyzing, just present. That moment is mindfulness. Now imagine extending that same presence to other parts of your life, brushing your teeth, washing dishes, walking your dog, listening to a loved one. Suddenly, ordinary moments become luminous. Life stops being a blur and begins to unfold in vibrant detail. The great Vietnamese Zen teacher Thich Nhat Hanh often taught that the miracle is not to walk on water, the miracle is to walk on the earth, to feel your feet touching the ground, to hear the birds as if for the first time, to breathe and know that you are breathing. This miracle is available to all of us, always. But why is mindfulness so central to the path of letting go? Because without awareness, we cannot see what we're holding. Without seeing clearly, we cannot release. Mindfulness is the flashlight in the dark room. It helps us notice the clenched jaw, the racing thoughts, the tension in the belly. It shows us our habits of fear, our patterns of craving. It reveals how we respond not just to the world, but to ourselves. With mindfulness, we begin to see the ego not as an enemy, but as a collection of conditioned responses. We see how it reacts to criticism, how it flares up with jealousy, how it shrinks in shame. We observe it with curiosity, not judgment, and in doing so, we loosen its grip. There's a story in the Buddhist tradition about a monk who lived in a hut in the forest. One night, a thief broke in. The monk, unafraid, greeted him warmly and said, "You've come a long way. You must be tired. Please, have some tea." The thief, confused but intrigued, sat. After a while, the monk said, "There is nothing of value here, but I can give you my robe. It's the only thing I own." He handed it over. The thief left, bewildered. Later that night, the monk looked at the moon and whispered, "Poor man, if only I could have given him this beautiful moon." Well, this is the fruit of mindfulness. It creates space between stimulus and response. It replaces fear with kindness. It lets us meet the moment as it is, not as our ego interprets it. And what of anxiety? How does mindfulness help us when our nerves are frayed, our sleep elusive, our thoughts spinning like a wheel? Mindfulness offers an anchor. When we are anxious, the mind is either in the past replaying mistakes or in the future imagining worst-case scenarios. The body, meanwhile, is here, in the present, and the breath is always available. So mindfulness invites us back not by fixing the anxiety, but by being with it, by saying, "Yes, this is here, and I can hold it." A simple practice. Sit or lie down. Place one hand on your belly, the other on your chest. Close your eyes. Begin to feel your breath, not changing it, just noticing the rise and fall, the temperature of the air, the pause between inhale and exhale. When a thought comes, say softly in your mind, "Thinking," and return to the breath. This is not about erasing thoughts. It's about not being lost in them. Over time, mindfulness becomes a friend, one that walks beside you through grief and joy, silence and chaos. One that doesn't try to fix you, but simply accompanies you. And in that companionship, healing happens. Daniel, the man whose insomnia led him to explore pure awareness, began incorporating mindfulness into his daily rhythm, not in dramatic ways. He didn't sit for hours. He didn't chant mantras. He just started noticing. He noticed how his shoulders tightened during work calls. He noticed how he rushed through meals. He noticed the stories his mind told him at night. Stories of inadequacy, of failure, of needing to be more. Instead of pushing them away, he started saying, "I see you," not to indulge them, but to acknowledge them. And slowly, they lost their power. He started walking more slowly, eating more mindfully, pausing before reacting. And though his life on the outside didn't change much, something profound began to shift inside. He wasn't at war with himself anymore. He had found a refuge not in escape, but in presence. Mindfulness is not a destination. It is a returning, a remembering. Every moment is an opportunity to come home, and even sleep so elusive for the anxious heart becomes more accessible, because when the mind is present, it is less restless. When we stop resisting our fatigue, we allow the body to do what it naturally longs to do: rest. There's a beautiful practice in Tibetan Buddhism called mindful sleeping. Before bed, the practitioner lies down, reflects on the day with gratitude, and sets the intention to stay aware, even as sleep comes. Not to force awareness, but to invite it gently as a companion into the night. You can try it tonight. As you lie in bed, place your hands over your heart, feel your breath, let your body soften, and silently say, "Thank you, mind, for all you've done today. Now you may rest. I will be here, gently watching." If sleep comes, let it. If it doesn't, stay with the breath. You are still practicing. You are still resting. You are still whole. In time, mindfulness becomes not something you do, but something you are. It becomes the lens through which you see the world more clearly, more kindly, more fully. And through this lens, even suffering becomes a teacher. Even fear becomes a doorway. Even ego becomes a whisper in the wind, no longer driving your life, just passing through. In the next part of our journey, we will explore the power of acceptance, how embracing what is, instead of resisting it, brings profound peace and healing. But for now, may you walk gently through this day. May you notice the small wonders. May you remember the breath, and may you know, deep in your bones, that this moment, just as it is enough. Anxiety, for many, is not just an occasional visitor. It is a constant background hum, a quiet but persistent tension in the chest, a tightening of the stomach, a mind that loops through every possible danger, disappointment, or failure. It whispers of what might go wrong, what already has, and what you've missed in between. It robs us of rest, colors our days with unease, and steals into our nights like a shadow we can't shake off. Most people who suffer from anxiety don't want to feel it. Of course they don't. It's uncomfortable, it's disorienting, and it often feels like something is deeply wrong with the world, with their life, with themselves. So the first instinct is to resist, to push it away, to distract, deny, suppress. We tell ourselves to calm down, to get over it, to be rational. We try to fix it with plans, with affirmations, with control. And when that doesn't work, we become even more anxious about being anxious. It's like falling into quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink. But Buddhism offers a radically different approach, one that seems almost counterintuitive in a culture of striving and self-improvement. Acceptance, not as resignation, not as defeat, but as a gateway to peace. In the Pali language of the early Buddhist texts, the word khanti means patience, forbearance, acceptance. It is considered one of the greatest virtues, not because it is passive, but because it is powerful. Acceptance does not mean we give up. It means we stop fighting what already is. When anxiety arises, what if instead of pushing it away, we turn toward it? What if we said, "Yes, I see you. You are here. I can hold space for you." This is not about liking the anxiety. It's about acknowledging reality and choosing to meet it with compassion rather than conflict. There's a Zen teaching that says, "Let go or be dragged." This doesn't mean we surrender to danger or chaos. It means we stop being dragged around by our thoughts and feelings and instead become the space in which they are allowed to exist and then pass. Let me share with you a story, a true story, of a woman named Grace. Grace had been battling anxiety since childhood. She was high-achieving, well-organized, always prepared. But beneath the surface was a constant unease, a voice that said she had to be ready for everything, or else everything would fall apart. Every decision, even small ones, filled her with doubt. Her sleep was shallow, her chest was tight, her mind was always moving, even when her body was still. She tried therapy, she tried medication, she tried yoga. Each helped for a time, but the anxiety always came back. One day, she attended a Buddhist retreat. The teacher, a soft-spoken monk, guided the group in a meditation. "Feel your body," he said. "Feel the breath. And now, notice what is present. Don't change it. Just say, 'This too.'" As she sat there, Grace felt her usual anxiety rise up. Her heart pounded, her throat tightened, But this time, she didn't try to calm it. She didn't analyze it. She simply whispered, "This too." Something unexpected happened. The anxiety didn't disappear, but it softened. It lost its power to terrify. It was no longer a monster. It was just a sensation, a wave in the ocean of her being. She continued the practice for weeks. Every time the anxiety returned, she met it with the same gentle phrase, "This too." And slowly, she began to live differently. She stopped needing to control everything. She stopped blaming herself. She allowed life to be unpredictable and allowed herself to be human. Grace had discovered the secret hidden in plain sight. Anxiety is not the enemy. Resistance is. Let's be clear. Anxiety is not comfortable, but much of our suffering doesn't come from the anxiety itself. It comes from the belief that we shouldn't have it, from the judgment we place on it, from the war we wage against it. Acceptance doesn't make anxiety pleasant, but it makes it bearable, and in that bearability, it begins to shift. When we accept anxiety, we give it space to breathe. We allow the body to soften. We interrupt the loop of fear feeding fear. And in that space, awareness emerges clear, kind, steady. Here's a simple practice you can try when anxiety visits. 1. Pause. Don't react. Don't try to escape. Just pause, even for a few seconds. 2. Breathe. Bring your attention to the breath. Not to control it, but to feel it. Inhale, exhale, slowly. 3. Name it. Gently say, "This is anxiety." Naming it reduces its power. It brings it into the light. 4. Allow it. Say, "This too." You don't have to like it. You just have to let it be. 5. Notice what it feels like. Where is it in the body? What shape? What texture? What temperature? Get curious, like a scientist. 6. Soften around it. Imagine surrounding the anxiety with warmth, like wrapping a shivering child in a blanket. 7. Stay or move gently. Either remain with it as long as you can, or move into a grounding activity, a walk, a shower, writing in a journal. This is mindfulness in action. This is compassion in action. And this is acceptance not as theory, but as lived wisdom. The Buddha taught that dukkha, suffering, stress, is a universal part of life. But he also taught the noble truth that suffering can end, and it doesn't end by avoiding pain. It ends by seeing it clearly, understanding its nature, and letting go of the need for it to be different. Acceptance is the doorway to that letting go. One of the most beautiful images in the Buddhist tradition is that of the lotus flower. The lotus grows in the mud, thick, dark, messy, and yet it rises above the water, pure and bright. But it does not reject the mud. It needs the mud. Without the mud, there is no lotus. So it is with anxiety. You don't need to eliminate all fear to find peace. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to meet what arises with presence, with tenderness, and with the quiet strength to say, "Even this belongs." Daniel, the man we've followed through these reflections, began to practice this with his own anxiety. At night, when the thoughts returned, when the heart raced, he would place a hand on his chest and whisper, "Hello, old friend, I see you." He stopped trying to push it away. He stopped trying to conquer it. He simply allowed it, and allowed himself to be with it. And as he did, something shifted, not all at once, but gently. The anxiety still came, but it no longer ruled. And in its place, there was space. Space for rest, for peace, for sleep. You don't need to win a battle with your mind. You only need to end the war. Acceptance does not mean you give up on healing. It means you trust that healing begins where you are not where you wish to be. In the next chapter, we will explore how compassion, especially toward yourself, becomes the natural fruit of this path. But for now, let these words echo gently in your heart. You are not broken for feeling anxious. You are not weak for needing rest. You are not alone in your struggle, and peace is not far away. It is here, waiting. In the space between resistance and surrender, it begins the moment you say, with honesty and kindness, "This too." Imagine for a moment you are walking through a dense forest at twilight. The light is fading, and the path ahead is unclear. You feel afraid, uncertain. Suddenly, a gentle hand touches your shoulder. You turn, And it's someone who smiles not because they have all the answers, but because they are not afraid to walk beside you in the dark. That hand, that presence, is what compassion feels like. We've explored how mindfulness helps us see and how acceptance helps us stop resisting what is. But without compassion, these practices can feel sterile. They can become mental exercises, dry and distant. It is compassion that breathes life into them. It is compassion that warms the cold chambers of anxiety, that softens the clenched fist of self-judgment, that invites us to rest. And more importantly, it is compassion that makes letting go possible. You cannot release what you still hate. You cannot soften toward what you still fear. You cannot let go of pain if you have not yet bowed to it, held it with kindness and said, I understand why you're here. In Buddhism, compassion is not a luxury or a sentiment. It is a force, a power that dissolves delusion, a bridge that carries us from suffering to freedom. In Pali, it is called karuna, trembling of the heart in response to pain, both our own and others. It is not pity. It is not fixing. It is presence. It says, you are suffering, I see you, and I will stay. And we often think of compassion as something we offer to others, but on the path of awakening, we must first learn to offer it to ourselves. Because it is the lack of self-compassion that makes the ego so loud, that makes the anxiety so sharp, that makes the journey so lonely. Think of how you speak to yourself when you're struggling, when you've made a mistake, when you're overwhelmed. Is your inner voice kind? Or is it harsh, demanding, critical? For most people, that voice is anything but compassionate. It says, you're weak. You should be better. Why can't you get over this? That voice is the echo of cultural expectations, family conditioning, and personal shame. And it keeps us locked in the very suffering we long to escape. But here's the truth. You cannot hate yourself into healing. You cannot shame yourself into awakening. You cannot bully yourself into peace. You must learn to love the parts of you that are still afraid, still grieving, still clinging, still waking up. There is a teaching from the Buddha that illustrates this beautifully. A disciple asked, Master, how should we treat ourselves? And the Buddha replied, with the same care you would offer to a child who is sick and afraid. This is not weakness. This is the deepest kind of strength. Let me tell you a story. There was once a young woman named Lila who carried deep wounds from childhood. Her father had been stern and distant. Her mother, overwhelmed with life, had often withdrawn. Lila grew up believing she had to earn love by being perfect. So she excelled, she achieved, she controlled everything she could. But inside, she was brittle, anxious, exhausted. One day, during a meditation retreat, she was guided through a practice of self-compassion. The teacher said, bring to mind a part of yourself that is struggling. Now imagine holding that part like you would a crying child. At first, Lila resisted. She felt silly. But then she pictured her younger self 8 years old, curled in a corner, crying silently, and something in her broke open. She began to weep not from pain, but from recognition. She whispered inwardly, I'm so sorry. I didn't know how to care for you, but I see you now. That moment changed her. It didn't fix everything, but it planted a seed. And over the months and years that followed, she returned to that child often whenever anxiety flared, whenever perfectionism took over. Not to scold, but to soothe. Not to suppress, but to embrace. That is the power of compassion. When we hold our wounds with gentleness, they begin to heal. When we stop fighting ourselves, we stop needing to control everything. And when we begin to care for ourselves, letting go becomes natural. Because we are no longer abandoning ourselves, we are finally coming home. This is a revolutionary act in a culture that teaches us to be hard, to perform, to earn worthiness. But in the Dharma, worth is not earned, it is inherent. It is your nature. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, you yourself, as much as anyone in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. He did not say, after you're perfect. He said now, as you are, with your fears, your flaws, your fatigue. So what does compassion look like in practice? It looks like pausing when you've failed, placing a hand on your heart and saying, this hurts, and it's okay. It looks like breathing gently through a panic attack and whispering, I'm here with you. It looks like speaking to your inner critic with kindness. Thank you for trying to protect me, but I'm learning a new way. It looks like resting when you're tired, not because you earned it, but because you deserve it. It looks like choosing presence over perfection, mercy over measurement, softness over shame. This is not indulgence, this is wisdom. Because compassion doesn't make us lazy, it makes us whole. And when you become whole, letting go is not a struggle, it is a release. You stop needing to prove, to hold, to cling. You begin to trust the unfolding of life, not because you're certain of the outcome, but because you're no longer afraid to feel. Daniel, whom we've followed through this journey, once believed compassion was weakness. He'd grown up being told to tough it out, to be a man, to not show emotion. So for years, he treated his anxiety like an enemy to be defeated. But over time, through mindfulness and acceptance, he began to soften. And when he heard the teachings on self-compassion, something clicked. For the first time, he allowed himself to care about his pain, not to wallow in it, but to witness it. He would place a hand on his chest and simply say, "You're doing your best. You're not alone." Sometimes he would cry. Sometimes he would laugh. But always, he felt more whole. And with that wholeness came the freedom to let go of old narratives, of impossible standards, of the need to pretend. His anxiety didn't vanish, but it no longer controlled him, because now he had something stronger than fear. He had compassion. So how can you cultivate this strength? You don't need elaborate rituals, just small, daily gestures of care. Here's a practice to try each morning. 1. Sit quietly. Place one hand on your heart, one on your belly. Feel your breath. Feel your body. 2. Say gently, "May I be kind to myself today." If this feels awkward, try, "May I treat myself like someone I care about." 3. Bring to mind something that causes you stress or shame. Notice how your body responds. Offer it compassion. Say, "This too. I see you. I'm here." 4. Throughout the day, return to your breath, your hand on your heart, your intention to care. You are rewiring your relationship with yourself. Gently, steadily, deeply. And at night, before bed, reflect not on what you did wrong, but on what you survived. On the fact that, despite everything, you are still here, still trying, still loving. That is enough. In Buddhism, bodhicitta is the awakened heart. It is the intention to live with compassion for self and others. It is not a destination, it is a path, a choice, one breath at a time. And it is through that heart that we finally let go, not with force, but with grace. Letting go is not just about the past, it's about how we treat ourselves in the present. When we carry compassion into the places we've kept hidden, into the wounds we've judged, into the fears we've avoided, we transform them, not by changing them, but by seeing them with love. In the next chapter, we will explore impermanence, the truth that everything changes, and how this truth, when embraced with compassion, becomes the soil in which peace can grow. But for now, rest here. Let go of the voice that says you're behind. Let go of the pressure to do more, be more. Let go of the belief that only your best self is worthy of love. You are worthy now. Let that truth hold you. Let that truth free you. Let that truth guide you home. There is a quiet truth at the heart of all existence, one so simple, so fundamental, and yet so often forgotten. It is this: everything changes. The seasons turn, the body ages, friendships evolve, emotions rise and fall, circumstances shift like sand beneath our feet. Even the stars burn out eventually. Nothing, absolutely nothing, stays the same. In Buddhism, this truth is called anicca, the principle of impermanence. It is one of the three marks of existence, along with dukkha, suffering, and anatta, non-self. Together, these truths are not meant to depress us. They are meant to wake us up, to invite us into a deeper intimacy with life as it actually is, not as we wish it to be. At first glance, impermanence can feel threatening. It reminds us that we cannot hold on forever, that people we love will one day die, that the things we've built may crumble, that the comfort we feel in this moment is not guaranteed in the next. And yet, paradoxically, it is in embracing impermanence that we find peace. because it is not impermanence that causes suffering, it is our resistance to it. We try so hard to freeze time, to preserve youth, to cling to joy, to keep our identities fixed and certain. We become collectors of permanence in a world made entirely of waves. And in that struggle, we lose the ability to truly live. Consider this. When you know something won't last, doesn't it become more precious? The scent of a flower, gone by morning. The sound of laughter, already fading. The feel of your child's small hand, soon to grow. These are not moments to fear, these are moments to cherish. When you fully grasp impermanence, no, just intellectually, but in your bones you begin to live differently. You love more fully, knowing that love cannot be hoarded. You forgive more easily, realizing that pain too will pass. You pause more often, honoring the beauty of now, because you know now won't return. There's a story from the Buddha's life that speaks to this truth. A woman named Kisa Gautami lost her only child. Devastated, she went from house to house, begging for medicine that could bring her son back. Most turned her away. Some pitied her. Eventually, she came to the Buddha. He listened with compassion and said, "Yes, I can help you, but first, bring me a handful of mustard seeds from a household that has never known death." Relieved, she hurried off, but as she went from door to door, every family shared their own story of loss. A grandmother, a father, a sibling, a friend. By the end of the day, Kisa Gautami returned to the Buddha, empty-handed but changed. She understood. Her suffering was not hers alone. Death, like birth, is part of life. Her grief remained, but her isolation softened. She no longer raged against reality. She began to walk the path of awakening. This story is not about resignation. It is about seeing clearly. It is about opening the heart to the impermanent nature of all things, not to despair, but to awaken compassion and connection. Because if everything changes, then so does pain, so does fear, so does loneliness. Nothing lasts, not even suffering. When you lie awake at night, anxious or overwhelmed, it can feel like the heaviness will never lift. But even your anxiety is impermanent. It rises, it crests, it falls. No emotion is final, no thought is permanent. Even your sense of self shifts moment to moment. Try this practice. The next time you feel gripped by fear or sadness, place your hand on your heart, breathe deeply, and say inwardly, "This too is passing." Not to rush it away, not to invalidate it, but to remember that you are larger than what you're feeling. You are the sky, not the storm. There's a Japanese concept called mono no aware, a deep, gentle sadness at the passing of things, and a profound appreciation of their fleeting beauty. It is not morbid, it is tender, a reminder that life's preciousness lies in its impermanence. We could think of impermanence as a river. We can try to dam it, to control it, to hold it still, or we can step into its current, feel its flow, and trust that it is carrying us where we need to go. This does not mean we don't grieve, or that we don't try to care for what matters. It means we stop fighting what is natural. We learn to meet change not with clenched fists, but with open hands. Let me tell you another story. There was once a monk who carried a beautiful clay cup. He drank from it every day, admiring its shape, its feel, its subtle color. When people asked why he valued it so, he said, "To me, this cup is already broken." He didn't mean that he didn't love it. On the contrary, he loved it deeply, but he knew that one day it would chip, or fall, or fade. And because he accepted its impermanence, he could love it fully in the present, without fear of loss, and without attachment. What if we treated our own lives like that? Our relationships, our bodies, our very breath. To know something is temporary is not to love it less, it is to love it more. This is especially important when we face transition sendings, losses, uncertainty. Whether it's the death of a loved one, the loss of a job, the change of identity, or even the shift of a season, impermanence can feel like groundlessness. But it is also opportunity, because when something ends, something else begins. When one identity falls away, space opens for the next. When a season changes, new colors bloom. We are not static. Being sway, our process. And life is always inviting us to flow. Daniel, who has been walking this path of awareness and healing with us, struggled deeply with change. He feared it, he resisted it, Every time life shifted, whether it was a breakup, a job transition, or simply aging, he felt like he was falling apart. But as he practiced mindfulness and compassion, he began to see that the fear came not from the change itself, but from his clinging. He remembered the teaching of the river, and one night, as he lay in bed, watching thoughts rise and fall, he whispered to himself, "This too is the flow." He didn't try to stop it. He didn't try to hold it back. He just let go and let it carry him. And in that letting go, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Because peace is not found in stability. It is found in surrender. When we embrace impermanence, we begin to trust life. Not because it gives us guarantees, but because we stop demanding them. We begin to live with a new kind of courage, not the courage to control, but the courage to feel, to grieve, to celebrate, to begin again. And we begin to sleep more deeply, not because the world is fixed, but because we are no longer fighting its motion. Here's a gentle practice for the end of the day. 1. Sit quietly, breathe deeply. Feel your body, feel the breath entering, leaving. 2. Reflect on the day. Notice what came and what passed. A conversation, a mood, a moment of connection or irritation. Let it all rise and fade. 3. Whisper, all things change. Say it not with sorrow, but with reverence. 4. Offer gratitude for the joys, the lessons, the impermanent beauty of another day. 5. Rest in the knowing that nothing is fixed, not even suffering, not even you. You are always becoming. Impermanence is not a threat. It is a teacher. It reminds us that we are not stuck, that healing is possible, that joy is always returning, that each breath is a chance to begin again. And so we learn to love not because it lasts, but because it doesn't. We learn to live not because we can hold on forever, but because we can't. And we learn to let go not as an end, but as the deepest form of trust. In the next part of our journey, we will explore how pain when held in awareness becomes wisdom. But for now, may you rest in the arms of change. May you see the falling leaf not as an ending, but as a dance. May you feel the setting sun not as loss, but as golden grace. May you let go not with fear, but with faith. Because the truth is, you were never meant to cling. You were meant to flow. Pain is inevitable. This is not a judgment or a sentence site. It is simply part of being alive. To love is to risk loss. To try is to risk failure. To feel is to eventually encounter suffering. Whether it comes through illness, grief, rejection, betrayal, or the aching loneliness that sometimes creeps in, even when life seems fine on the surface, of pain touches every life. But Buddhism offers a path not of avoidance, but of alchemy. Pain, when met with awareness and compassion, does not merely pass through us, it transforms us. It deepens our understanding, opens our hearts, and shapes the very wisdom we long for. As the Zen saying goes, no mud, no lotus. In Riko, there is no awakening without pain, but there can be pain without awakening if we do not know how to meet it. Most of us are taught to avoid pain. From childhood, we learn to flinch away, distract ourselves, numb ourselves, drown it in noise, work, substances, or perfectionism. We believe that to be strong is to be unbothered, to smile through suffering, to move on quickly and cleanly. But in truth, avoiding pain only extends its life. What we resist persists. What we bury festers. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from tanha, craving, and aversion. When pain arises and we push it away, we add a second layer of suffering. The first arrow is the pain itself. The second arrow is our reaction to it. The mind saying, "This shouldn't be happening. Why me? I can't bear this." That second arrow, though invisible, often cuts deeper than the first. But there is another way. We can choose to meet pain not with fear or judgment, but with awareness. We can turn toward it, gently, and listen to what it has to say. We can hold it like we would a wounded animal, softly, patiently, without forcing it to heal on our timeline. This turning toward pain is the beginning of transformation. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man who came to the Buddha, overwhelmed with grief. His wife had died, his business had failed. He felt cursed by fate. "I've lost everything," he cried. "Please, make it stop." N64, the Buddha listened. then said, "I cannot take away your sorrow, but I can offer you a way to hold it." He led the man to a quiet spot and said, "Sit here, feel your sorrow fully, but don't speak of it, don't analyze it, just breathe and feel." The man did as he was told. At first he wept, then his anger rose, then despair. But the Buddha instructed him to simply keep breathing no matter what arose. Hours passed. Eventually, the man opened his eyes, surprised. The pain was still there, but something had shifted. It was no longer consuming him. It was no longer a storm. It had become a part of him, but it had lost its power to destroy. "That," said the Buddha, "is the beginning of wisdom. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is a messenger. It shows us where we are wounded. It reveals what we value. It uncovers the parts of ourselves we have ignored. And when we stop running from it, we begin to hear its teachings. A broken heart teaches us about tenderness. Illness teaches us about impermanence. Rejection teaches us about self-worth. Grief teaches us about love. This doesn't mean we seek pain. Buddhism is not a path of suffering for its own sake. It is a path of liberation from unnecessary suffering by understanding and embracing the pain that is already here. Daniel, who we've followed throughout this journey, had his own experience of transformation through pain. There was a year when everything seemed to fall apart. His father died suddenly. His relationship ended. He was laid off from work. At night, he couldn't sleep. His chest felt tight. His thoughts raced endlessly through what-ifs and if-onlys. He tried to stay strong. He meditated. He journaled. He tried to be spiritual about it. But one night he broke. Sitting alone in his apartment, he collapsed into tears. He pounded the floor. He shouted at the sky. He felt abandoned by everything, even his practice. And then, exhausted, he sat still. He didn't try to fix it. He didn't try to be wise. He just let the pain be there. And slowly, something opened. He felt a warmth risen outside him, but within. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't even relief. It was clarity, a sense that the pain was not a punishment, but a teacher. That he was not broken, he was breaking open. From that moment on, his relationship with pain changed. He stopped trying to outsmart it. He started to sit with it, like an old friend. He began to ask, "What are you here to show me?" And in those moments of surrender, he discovered truths he had never seen before. His fear of vulnerability, his patterns of avoidance, his deep need for control. And most importantly, he discovered compassion not just for others, but for himself. This is the path of transforming pain into wisdom. It begins with awareness. It deepens with acceptance. And it blossoms with compassion. Here is a simple practice you can try. 1. When pain arises, physical, emotional, or mental, pause. Don't distract. Don't analyze. Just pause. 2. Place a hand on the body where you feel it most. It may be your heart, your gut, your throat. 3. Breathe gently. Say inwardly, "I see you." No need to fix, just acknowledge. 4. Ask softly, "What are you trying to teach me?" Don't demand an answer, just open the space. 5. If tears come, let them. If silence comes, welcome it. You are not performing, you are witnessing. 6. End with gratitude. Even if you don't understand yet, thank the pain for its presence. Say, "I trust that wisdom is growing here." This practice may feel strange at first. Pain usually triggers our defenses. But the more you lean in, the more you'll realize. Pain wants to be seen, not to be indulged, but to be held. Think of a child who is crying. If you tell them to stop, they cry harder. If you ignore them, they feel unloved. But if you kneel, open your arms and say, "Come here, I'm listening," their crying begins to soften. So too with our pain. When it is met with presence, it becomes less sharp. When it is cradled in compassion, it becomes a teacher. One of the deepest insights of Buddhism is that everything contains its opposite. Joy arises from sorrow. Clarity follows confusion. Awakening is born from suffering. This is not just poeticit, it's practical. If you look back on your life, you may see that your greatest growth came not during times of ease, but through challenge. Not when you were comfortable, but when you were cracked open. The cracks are where the light comes in. And so, rather than fearing pain, we learn to bow to it. Not because we want it, but because we respect its wisdom. We stop asking, why is this happening to me? And we begin asking, what is this here to reveal? We stop running. We turn toward. We listen. And in doing so, we become free. Not free from pain, but free within it. Because pain, when resisted, imprisons. But pain, when embraced, transforms. It becomes the fire that forges us, the river that carries us, the silence in which truth is heard. In the next part of our journey, we will explore how stillness and silence, often misunderstood or feared, can become our greatest refuge. But for now, let these words linger in your heart. Pain is not your enemy. It is your companion on the path. It does not ask you to suffer forever. It only asks you to feel fully. And in that feeling, you will find healing. You will find wisdom. You will find yourself. Silence is not the absence of something. It is the presence of everything. It is the fertile space from which clarity arises. The pause between thoughts. The breath between words. The still pool beneath the rippling surface of the mind. In our noisy world where distractions flash like neon signs, and the mind is always on, the move silence has become rare, even frightening. We fill our lives with sound, music, podcasts, conversations, notifications. We scroll, we watch, we talk not just to connect, but to escape the silence. And yet, deep within us, we long for it. Not the silence of suppression or avoidance, but the silence that soothes, the silence that heals, the silence that allows us to hear the truth. In Buddhism, silence is not seen as emptiness in the negative sense. It is seen as shunyata, emptiness, as fullness. The vast openness in which all things arise and pass. The quiet awareness that is our true nature. And it is from silence that true insight is born. Stillness is its sister. Not just the stillness of the body, but of the mind, of the heart. A spaciousness that is not dull or dead, but alive with presence. The Buddha himself found enlightenment beneath the Bodhi tree, in perfect stillness. Not by striving, not by acquiring, but by sitting still, watching the dance of thoughts and sensations, until he saw through the illusion of separation and awakened to the reality of things as they are. Stillness is not inaction. It is profound action in a different dimension. It is the act of resting in awareness, of choosing not to react, of witnessing rather than clinging. In that witnessing, something extraordinary happens. The ego loses its grip, and the self dissolves into the spacious truth of being. Let us begin with a small image. Imagine a snow globe that's been shaken. Flakes swirl in chaos, blurring everything inside. This is the mind in its ordinary state, tossed by thoughts, memories, emotions, to-do lists. But if you place the globe down and let it be, the snow settles. Clarity returns. Stillness allows the mind to settle in just this way. But many of us fear stillness. We equate it with stagnation, with boredom, with emptiness. We say, I can't sit still, my thoughts are too loud, I feel uncomfortable in silence. This discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something is being revealed. When the noise fades, we begin to hear what has always been there, our grief, our longing, our confusion. Stillness brings us face to face with the parts of ourselves we've ignored. And yes, that can be unsettling, but it is also liberating, because when you stop running from your mind, you stop being its prisoner. There's a story from the Zen tradition of a student who asked the master, "What is the essence of the path?" The master replied, "Attention." The student asked again, "Is there nothing more?" The master said, "Attention, attention, attention." Stillness and silence are not passive. They are profound forms of attention, of presence. And it is in that presence that true rest becomes possible. Daniel, our companion throughout this journey, discovered this in a most unexpected way. One evening, overwhelmed by a particularly difficult week, he turned off his phone, dimmed the lights, and sat on the floor of his living room. He didn't meditate formally. He didn't chant or analyze. He just sat. The room was quiet. At first, his mind raced. Thoughts demanded attention. Regret surfaced. Anxiety hummed like electricity. But he stayed. After a while, Something began to soften. The thoughts didn't disappear, but he no longer felt pulled by them. A gentle spaciousness opened inside him. Not dramatic, not mystical, just a quiet realization. I don't have to follow every thought. I can just be here. It was in that silence that Daniel found something he hadn't felt in years. A sense of home. Not a place, not a person, a presence. And that is the refuge silence offers us. In Buddhist texts, Nibbana Nirvana, often described not just as liberation from suffering, but as the unconditioned. That which is not born, not made, not dependent on anything else. It is like a flame that no longer clings to fuel, a mind that no longer clings to content. Stillness leads us toward this realization, because when we become still, we stop seeking outside, we stop chasing and comparing, we stop trying to perfect or perform, and in that sacred pause, we remember who we are not as a concept, but as direct experience. Here is a gentle practice for entering stillness. 1. Find a quiet space. Sit comfortably. Let the eyes close or rest softly open. 2. Begin by listening, not to anything specific, but to the whole field of sound. Let it wash over you. 3. Then feel the breath, not to control it, but to ride its natural rhythm. Inhale, exhale, stay with it. 4. When thoughts arise, let them come, let them go. No need to hold, no need to push, like clouds drifting across the sky. 5. Allow yourself to fall into the background. Become the space in which sounds, sensations, and thoughts appear and pass. Stay here, stay present. 6. If restlessness arises, greet it with kindness. It's okay, even the resistance belongs. Over time, you may begin to feel the silence beneath the noise. Not an empty silence, but a living silence. A silence that contains everything, yet clings to nothing. This is your refuge, and it is always here, even when the world feels loud, even when your mind feels crowded. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "Silence is essential." We need silence just as much as we need air, just as much as plants need light. Silence is not the absence of life. It is the space that makes life visible. In silence, we hear the whisper of truth. In stillness, we feel the pulse of presence. And through both, we begin to understand something radical, that we don't need to do anything to be whole. We already are. In a society obsessed with productivity, stillness is rebellion. In a culture addicted to stimulation, silence is medicine. And in a world filled with suffering, these ancient companion silence and stillness are the doorway to peace. This is why Buddhist monasteries are so quiet, not because monks are avoiding life, but because they are listening more deeply, listening not just to teachings, but to their own hearts, to the arising and passing of experience, to the truths that only silence can reveal. But you don't need to become a monk. You don't need to retreat to the mountains. You can cultivate stillness in the midst of everyday life. You can find it in the early morning light, before the world wakes. You can find it in the pause between footsteps, in the moment before a reply, in the breath you take before sleep. You can find it even in pain, even in joy, even in doubt, because silence is not something you create, it is something you return to. It is the space behind the noise, the presence beneath the thought, the truth beneath the story. As we come to the close of this chapter, consider this. What would it be like to no longer fear silence? What would it feel like to make stillness your friend? What if, instead of running from quiet, you entered it as a sanctuary? You don't have to answer with words. Just breathe. Just feel. Let the silence answer for you. In the next part of our journey, we will explore how to observe our thoughts without judgment, learning to sit with the mind as it is, and discovering the profound peace that comes when we no longer identify with every passing cloud. But for now, let us rest here in this moment, in this breath, in this silence. May you remember that refuge is not far away. It is not in some distant place or future moment. It is here, now, within you, in the stillness between heartbeats, in the silence that holds you, like the earth holds the seed. And in that sacred space, you are already home. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. Now, notice what's happening in your mind. Are there thoughts? Perhaps a stream of them, some soft, Some loud, some urgent, some random. Thoughts about this morning, about yesterday, about tomorrow. Thoughts judging this very sentence. Thoughts about your body, your relationships, your future. They rise and fall like waves. Now here's the question. Who is noticing those thoughts? There is a space in you that watches, that is aware, that does not judge or react, that simply sees. That space is your freedom. In our daily lives, we are so fused with thought that we forget we are not our thoughts. We identify with the voice in our head. If it says we're not good enough, we believe it. If it tells us something terrible might happen, we brace ourselves. If it replays old conversations, we live inside them again and again. Thoughts are not the enemy, but they are not always the truth. The Buddha compared the mind to a monkey restless, easily distracted, constantly swinging from one branch to the next. Modern neuroscience confirms this. The average person has thousands of thoughts per day, most of them repetitive, many of them negative. If we take every thought personally, if we react to each one as if it were real and urgent, we are constantly at war with ourselves, with reality, with life. But Buddhism teaches a different way, a gentler way, a way of non-judgmental observation. In Pali, the term is sampajanya, clear comprehension. It means seeing what arises in the mind, clearly and calmly, without grasping, without rejecting. It is the art of being with what is, exactly as it is, without labeling it good or bad, right or wrong. You might think of it as watching clouds pass through the sky. The sky does not cling to the clouds. It does not argue with them. It does not judge them. It allows them to come, and it allows them to go. You are the sky. Your thoughts are the clouds. This shift in awareness changes everything. Let's take an example. You're lying in bed, trying to sleep, and a thought arises, I didn't get enough done today. Instantly, a chain reaction begins. Shame, anxiety, self-criticism. You toss and turn, replaying the day, worrying about tomorrow. Sleep drifts farther and farther away. But now imagine meeting that thought with observation instead of identification. The thought arises, I didn't get enough done today. You notice it, you name it. Planning thought, judging thought, productivity, fear. You breathe, you feel your body. You let the thought float through the mind like a leaf on a stream. It loses its grip. You are no longer inside the thought, you are witnessing it. This is non-judgmental observation. You don't suppress the thought, you don't indulge it. You simply see it for what it is, a mental event, temporary, unreliable, not you. This practice takes patience. The mind is like a river that has been flowing in one direction for years. To step back and watch, instead of being swept away, it takes courage, tenderness, and repetition. There's a story from the Zen tradition that illustrates this well. A student came to the master and said, "My thoughts are like wild horses. I can't control them." The master replied, "Let the horses run, just don't get on." That's the essence. Let the thoughts come, let them go. Don't ride everyone, don't believe everyone. Sit on the riverbank, watch the water. You can begin this practice in meditation. Sit quietly, breathe, and just watch. When a thought arises, silently note it. Thinking, remembering, worrying, then return to the breath. No judgment, no frustration, just gentle noticing. Some days the thoughts will be loud, the mind will be busy. That's okay. It's not about stopping the mind. It's about changing your relationship with it. Daniel, our traveler in this journey, used to believe he had to stop his thoughts to find peace. He would sit in meditation and try to silence the mind. And when the thoughts came, anxious thoughts, angry thoughts, confused thought, she felt like a failure. But one day, his teacher told him something that changed everything. Peace is not the absence of thought. It's the absence of judgment. From that moment, Daniel began to observe instead of resist. When the inner critic showed up, he said, "Ah, there you are again." When fear came, he said, "Thank you for trying to protect me." He didn't fight, he didn't follow, he simply watched. And over time, the mind softened. The thoughts still came, but they no longer ruled him. In your own life, you can cultivate this same gentle awareness. Start by noticing what kinds of thoughts arise most often. Are they critical, Fearful, fantastical, nostalgic? Do you believe them automatically? Do they shape your mood? Then begin to name them: worry, planning, judgment. This helps create distance. It reminds you, this is a thought, it is not a fact, it will pass. And perhaps most importantly, meet every thought with compassion. You are not a bad person for having angry thoughts. You are not unworthy for having fearful thoughts. The mind has its habits. Many of them were formed long ago through trauma, conditioning, culture. You are not to blame for the shape your thoughts take, but you can choose how you relate to them now. And in that choice, you reclaim your peace. Try this practice before sleep. 1. Lie down. Feel your breath. Let the body relax. 2. Notice what thoughts are present. Don't push them away. Don't analyze them. Just watch. 3. If a thought sticks, silently say, noted, or give it a name: worry, story, memory. 4. Return to the breath. Gently, kindly, no judgment. 5. Repeat as often as needed. At first, your mind may resist. That's okay. Be patient. Even 5 seconds of non-judgmental awareness is a miracle. Over time, the space between thoughts grows, the heart softens, the body rests, and sleep returns not as an escape, but as a continuation of peace. Non-judgmental observation is not just for meditation, it becomes a way of life. When someone speaks harshly, you notice your anger rise, but you don't lash out. When anxiety comes, you notice the tightness in your chest, but you don't spiral. When joy comes, you savor it, fully knowing it too will pass. This is the dance of life thoughts and feelings rising and falling, moment by moment, and you, the witness, resting in the stillness beneath. The Buddha often used the image of a lotus flower. It grows from the mud, but it is not stained by the mud. Thoughts may arise from fear, from desire, from confusion, but they need not define you. You can live in this world, feel its waves, and still remain grounded in clarity. In the next part of our journey, we will explore loving kindness meditation, a practice that brings warmth and connection to ourselves and others. But for now, may you rest in the gentle truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who sees them. You are not the storm. You are the sky. Wide, open, unbroken. Let each thought come like a wave. Let each thought go like a breeze. And in that stillness, find the freedom that was always yours. In a world filled with noise, judgment, and constant striving, the simple act of wishing someone well without condition, expectation, or reward is revolutionary. Loving kindness, or metta in the Pali language of the Buddha, is more than just sentiment. It is a deep, intentional practice, a way of being, a soft but steady fire that warms the cold places within us and bridges the gaps between ourselves and others. Where mindfulness allows us to see clearly, metta teaches us how to see lovingly. It is the practice of turning toward all beings, including ourselves, with goodwill, tenderness, and sincere care. It begins as a whisper in the heart: may you be safe, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you live with ease. And from this whisper, a mighty force grows, a force that heals, that transforms, that awakens. But to understand loving kindness, we must first understand the suffering it addresses. So many of us live with a harsh inner critic, a voice that says, you're not enough, or you always mess up, or you don't deserve peace. This voice often grows louder in stillness, especially when we're alone, especially at night, when the world quiets and we are left with ourselves. This inner criticism can make sleep difficult, relationships strained, and self-trust fragile. And yet, rather than fighting this voice, the Buddhist path invites us to meet it with love. Loving kindness is how we speak to the pain without hardening, how we hold the wound without picking at it, how we remember the tenderness that is our birthright. Let me tell you a story. There once was a woman named Asha who had spent much of her life caring for Adasha family, her students, her aging parents. She gave generously, tirelessly, but when it came to herself, she offered little grace. When she made a mistake, she was ruthless. When she felt tired, she berated herself. When she needed comfort, she pushed herself harder instead. One evening, At a meditation retreat, the teacher guided a metta bhavana loving-kindness meditation. They began by directing kind wishes toward a friend. That was easy. Then a neutral person, also fine. Then a difficult person, challenging but possible. And then the self. Now, silently say to yourself, may I be safe, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I live with ease. Asha froze. Her throat tightened. Tears welled up. She couldn't say the words. They felt undeserved, even absurd. But the teacher said, if it's hard to say it to yourself, imagine saying it to yourself as a child. The little one inside you who tried so hard, who wanted to be loved, who didn't know how to ask. That image broke through her resistance. She saw her younger self sitting alone on the school steps, worried she'd done something wrong. And from her heart, without effort, came the words, may you be safe, may you be happy, may you live with ease. That was the beginning of her healing. Loving kindness is not self-indulgent. It is medicine. And not just for ourselves, but for the whole world. Because the truth is, all beings want to be happy. All beings fear suffering. All beings long for safety, for connection, for peace. And when we practice metta, we align ourselves with this fundamental truth. We become part of a greater healing. Let's look at how the practice unfolds. The traditional sequence of metta meditation. 1. Begin with yourself. You sit quietly. Feel your breath. Feel your heart. Gently repeat, may I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. 2. A loved one. Picture someone who brings joy to your heart. Visualize them clearly. Offer the same phrases to them. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. 3. A neutral person. Think of someone you see regularly, but don't know well, a neighbor, a grocery clerk, a bus driver. Offer them loving kindness. 4. A difficult person. Someone you're in conflict with. Not someone abusive or deeply traumatic. Start with mild difficulty. Offer metta here too. 5. All beings. Expand outward. Visualize your city, your country, the whole planet. Whisper, may all beings be safe. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings live with ease. The phrases are simple, but the heart's work is deep. You may not always feel loving. That's okay. The point is not to feel loving, it is to plant the seeds of love. Whether or not they sprout immediately, over time, they will. Some days it's hard to wish yourself well. On those days, start with a loved one. Let their light warm your heart, then gently turn that warmth inward. Other days, resentment may rise. That too is part of the practice. You don't need to force kindness. You simply notice resistance and offer loving kindness anyway. Like offering a drink to someone who may not be ready to receive it. The gesture matters. Even just trying to wish someone well begins to change your heart. Daniel, our fellow traveler, began incorporating metta into his nightly routine. He found that his insomnia often stemmed not from busyness, but from harshness. Thoughts like, I didn't do enough today, or I shouldn't have said that, or why can't I be better? So he began, before sleep, to place a hand on his heart and whisper, may I be kind to myself. May I forgive myself. May I sleep in peace. Some nights, the words felt hollow, but other nights, they softened him. His breath slowed, his body relaxed, the harshness quieted, and even when sleep was elusive, his heart felt less alone. Over weeks and months, something shifted. He found it easier to forgive others, to listen, to be present. Loving kindness didn't erase his anxiety, but it became a cushion beneath it. You can practice metta anywhere, in the car, while waiting in line, while washing dishes, while walking down the street. You see someone struggling? Silently say, may you be safe. You notice someone angry? Say, may you know peace. You feel overwhelmed? Say, may I be held in compassion. These small moments matter. They shape your inner landscape. They rewire your nervous system. They create a field of care around you, one that others can feel, even if they don't know why. Metta also works beautifully in relationships. Next time you're in conflict, pause. Close your eyes. Picture the other person not as their words or actions, but as a being who wants to be happy and is struggling in some way. Offer them kindness not to excuse behavior, but to see their deeper humanity. You might be surprised how this softens your reactivity, clears your mind, and opens the possibility for wiser responses. And remember, metta is a lifelong practice. Some days it flows easily, other days it feels blocked. That's okay. The river always finds its way. Here's a simple, guided loving-kindness meditation you can try before bed. 1. Lie comfortably. Let your body soften. Feel the support beneath you. Gently place a hand on your heart or belly. 2. Begin with yourself. Silently say, "May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease." Breathe. Repeat slowly. 3. Bring to mind someone you love. Picture them smiling. Whisper, "May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease." 4. Expand to others. Include friends, neighbors, even strangers. May you all be safe. May you all be happy. May you all be healthy. May you all live with ease. 5. Rest in silence. Let the phrases dissolve. Let the heart rest in the warmth of care. Fall asleep in that softness. This practice doesn't guarantee perfect sleep, but it does something even more precious. It calms the mind, soothes the body, and nurtures the heart. And slowly, it transforms you. You become someone who walks through the world with a gentle presence, someone who knows how to meet pain with care, someone who offers love without needing a reason. This is the power of metta, quiet, steady, revolutionary. In the next part of our journey, we will explore forgiveness not as a moral obligation, but as a path to freedom, especially when we learn to forgive ourselves. But for now, may these simple words become your lullaby. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. And may you remember, love is not something you wait to feel. It is something you choose to offer, again and again, until the whole world feels like home. We live in an age that prizes control above almost all else. From the apps on our phones that track every step, every calorie, every heartbeat, to our endless to-do lists and productivity hacks, we are taught that to thrive is to manage, to predict, to optimize. And yet, for many of us, this obsession with control has only magnified our inner unrest. The harder we clutch, the more life seems to slip away. Buddhism offers a paradoxical remedy. The deeper we surrender, the more fully we awaken. But what does surrender truly mean? It is not passivity or resignation. It is not giving up on life or abandoning our responsibilities. Rather, it is a profound willingness to let go of the illusion that we can micromanage every moment, every outcome, every feeling. It is an invitation to trust in a greater intelligence, a wise unfolding that operates beneath the ceaseless chatter of the ego. When we learn the art of surrender, we discover a new kind of power, one born not from force or struggle, but from openness and trust. 1. The illusion of control. Imagine standing at the edge of an ocean, trying to hold back the waves with your hands. Each wave crashes through, leaving your palms trembling, water drenched, sand scattered. No matter how strong you are, you cannot stop the tide. This is the human predicament. We try to hold back the waves of life loss, change, uncertainty, aging, illness, only to find ourselves exhausted and frustrated. The Buddha taught that much of our suffering arises from tanha, thirst, or craving, and upadana, clinging. We cling to pleasure, to ideas of permanence, to the sense that things should be a certain way. When reality contradicts our expectations, as it inevitably does, we suffer. Control, at its root, is a form of clinging. We grip the future, the past, our identities, our possessions, our relationships, believing that by doing so we will secure safety and happiness. Yet this very grip creates tension, anxiety, and resistance. We become like the coral reef, brittle and rigid, unable to bend with the currents of life. And when the storm comes, we break. Recognizing the cost of control. Years ago, a dear friend of mine, let's call her Maya, prided herself on being in control. She managed a busy corporate team by the minute, planned her children's schedules down to the last play date, and even had a ritual for brushing her teeth that involved a precise number of strokes and a metronome-like timing. But at night, when the world was quiet and the list of tomorrow's chores swam in her mind, she lay awake, her heart pounding, her thoughts spinning. She confided to me once, "I've tried every method: journaling, meditation, giving myself mantras, but I still feel like I'm failing at controlling my own mind." Maya's story is not unique. We can often manage tasks, but managing the mind and the unpredictable nature of life is another matter entirely. Control strategies can offer temporary relief, crossing an item off a list, finishing a project on time, but they cannot still the deeper currents of anxiety that arise when we believe our sense of safety depends entirely on our own efforts. 3. The paradox of surrender. Surrender, in Buddhist practice, is intimately tied to letting be. It's the recognition that some things are beyond our personal will, and when we stop struggling with what we cannot change, we free up energy for what truly matters: compassion, presence, wisdom. There is a Zen koan that asks, "What is your original face before your parents were born?" Its answer cannot be grasped by the thinking mind. Similarly, surrender cannot be achieved by thinking harder or planning better. It is a direct experience, a felt release, like unclenching a fist and feeling the tension drain out of your arm. When we truly surrender, we inhabit a realm beyond control, where life flows through us rather than being thwarted by us. We become fluidable to respond skillfully to circumstances without becoming entangled in them. 4. Cultivating surrender through practice. How do we cultivate surrender in a culture that teaches us to fight for every advantage? Through small, daily practices that remind us of our limits and connect us to something larger. A. The surrender breath. 1. Pause deliberately. Whenever you notice tension, perhaps your shoulders have tensed, your jaw is clenched, or your thoughts race, stop for a moment. 2. Inhale fully. Draw the breath all the way down into your belly, feeling the expansion. 3. Exhale with a soft sigh. As you release the breath, imagine letting go of the grip on control, on outcomes, on schedules, on your inner critic. 4. Repeat 3 times. Each exhale invites a little more surrender. This simple breath practice can be done anywhere, even in the middle of a hectic workday. It shifts your relationship to tension, reminding you that control is optional. B. The not knowing. Pause. Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron calls uncertainty a precious garment. We often see not knowing as scary, but this practice invites you to embrace it. 1. Identify an area of life where you feel resistance. Maybe it's a relationship you fear might end, a health concern, or an upcoming presentation. Allow yourself to say, "I don't know." Feel the natural impulse to fill that void with plans, predictions, or worst-case scenarios. Acknowledge the impulse. 3. Rest in the not knowing. Notice the aliveness, curiosity, even relief that can arise when you drop the need for certainty. Over time, you'll discover that not knowing, rather than a threat, is a fertile ground for creativity, flexibility, and unexpected solutions. C. Offering to the flow. In Theravada Buddhism, there is a practice called patipati, letting go into the flow. The idea is to consciously offer your plans, your fears, your ambitions, your very sense of self to the river of life, trusting that, like a leaf on water, you will be carried where you need to go. Each morning, sit quietly for just a few minutes. Visualize your day as a river, one by one. Name each intentioner, warrior, identity you cling to, and imagine placing it gently on the water. Watch it float away. Return to your breath. Begin your day from that space of open trust. 5. The freedom that follows. When Maya began practicing these simple acts of surrender, she noticed subtle, surprising shifts. She still managed her busy life, but she no longer felt compelled to control every variable. Her meetings flowed more organically. Delays at soccer practice felt like invitations to breathing. At night, instead of replaying anxieties, she found moments of calm as she acknowledged, "I don't know how tomorrow will unfold, and that's okay." Surrender does not mean abdication. You still take skillful action. You still set goals. But you no longer confuse your actions with your safety. You act, then let go. You invest, then release attachment to the result. This is perhaps the greatest gift of surrender, the ability to engage deeply with life without being undone by its unpredictability. 6. Embracing the unknown together. Surrender is not just an individual practice. It can infuse relationships, communities, and even our relationship with the planet. In relationships, surrendering control might mean listening deeply rather than trying to fix, allowing space for the other's unfolding, and admitting, I don't have all the answers. In community, it could mean collaborating without imposing one's agenda, recognizing that collective intelligence often surpasses individual will. With the Earth, it might mean acknowledging our limits, our dependence on ecosystems beyond our designing, and learning humility in the face of nature's complexity. In each case, surrender opens the door to humility, empathy, and connection. We move from I must dominate to we must co-create. 7. Surrender as sacred trust. In many spiritual traditions, surrender is framed as trust in the divine, in the Tao, in the Dharma. Buddhism speaks of Dharmadhatu, the realm of phenomena, as an overarching intelligence in which every moment arises and passes according to causes and conditions beyond any single ego. When we surrender, we align ourselves with this intelligence. We stop swimming upstream against the current. We become part of something greater, and paradoxically, we find ourselves. There is a Tibetan verse I love. When the mountain of pride is leveled by the wind of humility, the valleys of healing open wide, and you will rest in the meadow of trust. Surrender is that wind. It humbles the ego's mountain. It creates space for healing. It lets us rest in trust. 8. Returning home to yourself. Ultimately, surrender is about returning home to the simple presence beyond the swirling mind. It is the doorway back to pure awareness, where there is nothing to fix, nothing to prove, and nothing to lose. When you catch yourself clenching, whether it's your jaw, your hands, your plans, pause, breathe, surrender, whisper inwardly, I let go, I let be. Notice the subtle softening that follows. Notice how you become more alive, more creative, more kind. This is the art of surrendering control, not as a one-time event, but as a lifelong practice. Tiny moments of release sewn into the fabric of your day. Each one a reminder that life is not a problem to solve, but a mystery to be lived. And in living that mystery, you discover the peace, the freedom, and the deep joy of being truly, beautifully, wholly yourself no matter what waves arise. Reflection and practice. Evening release ritual. Before bed, list 3 things you tried to control: toady outcomes, others' opinions, or even your own emotions. On a sheet of paper, write each one down, then tear the paper into strips. As you do, breathe deeply and say, I release you. Watch the pieces drift in the wind, or flush them compassionately, knowing that surrender opens the door to rest and renewal. Daily surrender reminder. Set a gentle alarm on your phone every 2 hours. When it rings, stop what you're doing, place a hand over your heart, and silence your inner editor. Whisper, I surrender this moment to whatever arises. Then, return to your activity with fresh openness. Through these practiced tiny seeds of surrender, you will cultivate a life anchored not in the illusion of control, but in the living truth of trust. And in that trust, you will awaken to the vast, serene, and ever-present ground beneath every wave. We often reserve our deepest kindness for others, friends, family, even strangers in need, while we heap judgment on ourselves. The voice in our own head can be relentless, replaying mistakes, magnifying regrets, demanding perfection. And this self-judgment, unchecked, becomes a barrier to peace. Forgiveness is typically framed as something we grant to others. Yet the Buddha teaches that true healing begins when we turn forgiveness inward. To forgive ourselves is not to excuse poor choices or ignore harm we've caused, but to release the chains of remorse that bind us to the past. It is an act of deep compassion and acknowledgement that we, like all beings, are imperfect and learn through experience. In Pali, the language of the early Buddhist texts, there is no single word that directly translates as self-forgiveness. Instead, the path is woven through teachings on compassion, karuna, loving, kindness, metta, and non-self, anatta, These elements come together to show us how to bow to our own humanity, recognize our missteps, and make peace with what cannot be undone. E. The weight of unforgiveness. Imagine carrying a stone in your pocket day after day, year after year, reminding you of every time you fell short, every hurtful word you spoke, every moment you regret. That stone grows heavier until you stoop under its weight. This is the burden of unforgiveness. When we refuse to forgive ourselves, we replay the past incessantly. We attach our identity to, "I'm the person who," and we build a self-image around shame and guilt. This self-definition crowds out the possibility of growth, of kindness, of new beginnings. In the grip of such remorse, sleep eludes us, anxiety deepens, and life's brightness fades. 2. The mirror of imperfection. Buddhism invites us to view our mistakes as a mirror reflecting not merely our faults, but our shared humanity. The first step towards self-forgiveness is to see clearly, to look at our actions with honesty, without adding a second layer of judgment. There is a Zen parable of a samurai who, after a reckless act, approached his master seeking a path to atonement. The master handed him a clean white cloth and said, "Go wash the stain from this cloth without wetting it." The samurai tried every way, scrubbing, brushing, even scraping, but the cloth would not come clean. Frustrated, he returned to the master. The master replied, "You are trying to erase what happened by force. Instead, accept that the cloth has been stained. The only way forward is to weave a new cloth, stronger and more beautiful, and offer it with humility." In our lives, we cannot undo the past. We cannot unspeak a harsh word or uncommit an unskillful deed. But we can accept the stain, learn from it, and create a new fabric of intention and action. San, compassion as the soil of forgiveness. At the heart of self-forgiveness lies compassion, not just for ourselves, but for the human condition that led us to err. When we soften toward our own pain, we open the door to change. Recall the practice of self-compassion, placing a hand on the heart, acknowledging suffering, and offering kind phrases. We can adapt this to forgiveness. I acknowledge what I have done. I see my regret and sorrow. May I learn from this and grow with wisdom. Oh, by speaking these words to ourselves, we create a compassionate container in which remorse can be held safely rather than allowed to fester. 4. The story of Nalanda's monk. In an ancient monastery at Nalanda, there lived a monk named Sopaka. Euphoric at first in his practice, he soon became overconfident and began to judge others harshly, believing himself superior in insight. One dawn, he hurled a crude insult at a visiting teacher. The teacher paused, looked gently at Sopaka, and said, "My friend, you have mistaken a thorn for a flower. Go find mercy." Shaken, Sopaka retreated to his cell. Days passed as he sat in silence, chastened by his own cruelty. He wanted to apologize, but feared he was unworthy. Finally, he wrote a letter confessing his error and asking forgiveness. Placing it at the teacher's feet, he fled in shame. Later, called before the assembly, he found the visiting teacher waiting. The teacher held out the letter, now damp with tears, and embraced Sopaka. True insight arises not in our victories, but in our humility. Be kind to yourself, as you are but human. Through this act of mercy, Sopaka learned that forgiveness heals both the one who asks and the one who grants. He walked the remainder of his days with a softened heart, free from the burden of self-hatred. Wu, practices for self-forgiveness. Forgiving yourself is a process, not an event. It unfolds through repeated, intentional practices that cultivate clarity, compassion, and commitment to change. A. Reflective confession. 1. Sit in a quiet space with a journal or piece of paper. 2. Write down what you regret or the actions you wish to forgive yourself for. 3. Acknowledge the impact of those actions in yourself and others. 4. Express sorrow sincerely. I am sorry for. Wu. State your commitment. I vow to learn from this and to act with greater care. By naming the harm and intention to change, you transform guilt into constructive insight, laying the groundwork for genuine forgiveness. B. Compassionate letter. 1. Imagine writing a letter to a dear friend who committed the same mistake. 2. Use kind, warm language, acknowledging their pain and your belief in their capacity to grow. 3. Now, mark each occurrence of you and replace it with I. C. Read the letter out loud to yourself slowly, letting the tone of empathy sink in. Hearing words of compassion spoken toward ourselves. 7. By our own voice reprograms, our habitual self-criticism. C. Meta-forgiveness meditation. 1. Sit comfortably and take a few mindful breaths. 2. Visualize yourself as a child, innocent, learning, deserving of love. 3. Silently repeat, may I forgive myself. May I learn and grow. May I be free from regret. May I live with compassion. C. Let emotions arise without clinging or resisting. 5. Close by extending the same wishes outward to those you've hurt and to all beings. This practice bridges self-forgiveness with universal compassion, dissolving the walls between self and other. 6. Integrating forgiveness into daily life. True forgiveness shows its power not only in meditation, but in everyday moments. Each time guilt or shame surfaces, you can pause and breathe. Interrupt the spiral of self-attack. Name the feeling, this is regret. Offer a forgiveness phrase, I am learning, I am human. Choose a small reparative act. Apologize, make amends, or perform a kind gesture. Over time, these micro-practices build a new habit of self-acceptance, reducing the instinct to punish ourselves. C. Forgiveness and sleep. Unforgiven guilt is a notorious sleep stealer. When we carry remorse to bed, the mind replays scenes like a broken record. To prepare for restful sleep, cultivate an evening ritual of forgiveness. 1. Light a small lamp or candle by your bedside. 2. Write down any lingering regrets, then tear or safely burn the paper, symbolizing release. 3. Place a hand on your heart, close your eyes and recite, I let go of the past, I forgive myself, peace be with me. C. Visualize a gentle wave washing over you, carrying away self-judgment. 5. Drift into rest from this place of mercy. Such rituals create sacred space for the mind to settle, welcoming sleep from a foundation of kindness rather than tension. 8. Embracing growth through forgiveness. Self-forgiveness does not mean erasing consequences. It does not negate responsibility. Instead, it transforms the way we relate to our own mistakes, transforming shame into insight and regret into motivation for positive change. When we forgive ourselves, we stop hiding and start healing. We open to vulnerability, which deepens our connection to others. We reclaim our energy for creative action, rather than expending it on self-punishment. As the Zen teacher Shunryu Suzuki said, in the beginner's mind there are many possibilities, but in the expert's, there are few. When we hold ourselves in a beginner's mind open, curious, forgiving, we welcome the fullness of life's lessons. 9. The radiance beyond forgiveness. Ultimately, self-forgiveness is a gateway to the spacious awareness we touched on earlier. When we release the weight of past mistakes, we uncover the luminous mind, the ground of pure awareness that is untouched by error. In that radiance, forgiveness becomes effortless. We move through life with an embrace that includes both our light and shadow, guided by wisdom and warmed by compassion. May you, in forgiving yourself, discover the vast kindness that has always been your true nature, awake to your mistakes, yet not confined by them. Learning from the past, yet free to begin anew each moment. Radiant in your humanity, complete in your imperfection, we carry our past with us, like stones in a backpack, some light, some heavy, but all adding weight to our journey. Regret is one of the heaviest stones. It tethers us to moments we wish we could rewrite. Words we spoke in anger, chances we let slip away, dreams we abandoned too soon. Regret whispers, if only, what if, and I should have, trapping us in an endless loop of not enough and too late. Yet, the Buddha's path teaches another way. It shows us that regret, like all mental phenomena, arises from our relationship with the past, and that by changing how we relate to it, we can free ourselves from its grip. Letting go of past regrets is not about erasing memory or pretending we didn't err. It is about cultivating a heart that sees error with clarity, compassion, and open hands, then turns fully toward the present where transformation can truly occur. The nature of regret. Regret is born when we judge our past actions against an internal standard we hold often unrealistically high. We compare what we did to what we think we should have done, and label ourselves guilty, unworthy, or inadequate. This mental judgment locks us in a time loop, the if only trap. We imagine alternative scenarios where our choices were better. If only I had spoken up. If only I had stayed. If only I had tried harder. The I should have burden. We take responsibility, sometimes exaggerated, for outcomes beyond our full control. I should have prevented that accident. I should have known better. The haunting never voice. We see a singular mistake as proof of unchangeable character. I never learn. I always fail. This turmoil robs us of peace and presence. It diverts our energy from healing into replaying what cannot be changed. And yet, regret also carries a hidden gift. It shows us where our values lie, where our wounds are, and where we yearn to live with greater wisdom. 2. Acknowledgement without attachment. The first step in letting go is acknowledgement, not avoidance. Not suppressing regret, but turning toward it as a compassionate witness. In Buddhist practice, we call this sati, mindfulness, paired with upekkha, equanimity. Practice mindful acknowledgement. Find a quiet space, sit comfortably, breathe deeply. 2. Invite the regret into memory. Close your eyes and bring to mind the event, the words, the actions, the aftermath. Notice any bodily sensations: a tight chest, a sinking stomach, a trembling jaw. 3. Label without judgment. Silently say, regret is here, or this is if only thought. Notice how the mind tightens or softens at the label. 4. Breathe into the feeling. With each exhale, imagine offering the regret a little room to exist without forcing it away. With each inhale, offer kindness. May I be gentle with myself in this moment. By acknowledging without attachment, we interrupt the compulsive self-criticism that fuels regret. We see it as a passing mental event, rather than the totality of who we are. San, understanding causes and conditions. Buddhism teaches that all phenomena, including our past actions, arise from complex causes and conditions, paticca samuppada. Rarely is a mistake the result of a single choice in isolation. Family patterns, social pressures, limited information, emotional states all play a role. When we simply label ourselves as bad for a past action, we overlook the intricate web of conditions that shape that moment. This narrow view deepens shame and regret. Reflection exercise. Mapping causes. 1. Write down the regret. On one line, describe the action or decision. 2. List the conditions that led to it. Consider personal history, cultural messages, emotional state, external pressures, and information you had at the time. 3. Acknowledge constraints. Note what was outside your control. Recognize how these factors influenced your choice. This exercise does not excuse harmful behavior, but it humanizes it. It allows compassion to arise for ourselves and for all beings who act under complex influences. With understanding, regret softens from a sharpened blade into a tool for insight. 4. The parable of the cursed sword. A Zen master once told his students of a warrior who wielded a mighty sword. In battle, he struck down his enemy Sand. Afterward, he carried the sword, dripping with blood. Night after night, he stared at it, haunted by every life he had taken. His regret became a curse, rendering him sleepless and tormented. One day, a wandering nun visited his camp. She asked to hold the sword. Trembling, the warrior handed it over. She washed it, polished it, and returned it to him. "Why do you torture yourself with this? It is a weapon meant for battle, not your soul's prison," she said. "Use it as needed. Then place it down with reverence for what it once was and what it need not be now." The warrior felt tears release him. His regret did not vanish, still carried the weight of his actions, but he learned to set down the sword of self-condemnation, freeing his heart to live with integrity in whatever remained. 5. Forging new intentions. Letting go of regret is not about forgetting the past. It is about forging new intentions, drawing on the lessons learned to guide our present and future. In Buddhist terms, this is the path from remorse to atta kusala, skillful actions. Practice. Intention setting. 1. Reflect on the lesson. What did the regret teach you about your values? About what matters most? 2. For a positive intention. Write a clear, actionable intention, starting with I will or I choose to. Example, I will speak honestly, even when it feels difficult, or I choose to listen fully before responding. 3. Repeat daily. Each morning, read your intention aloud or silently. Let it guide your choices. By anchoring regret in present moment intention, we transform it from a burden into a beacon lighting the way toward more mindful, compassionate living. Luke, rituals of release. Symbols and rituals can reinforce our inner work. When prose and reflection are not enough, a simple ceremony can help concretize the act of letting go. Example ritual. 1. Write your regret. On a small piece of paper, describe briefly the action or decision you regret. 2. Offer gratitude for the lesson. On the back, note what you have learned. 3. Create a release. This might be tearing the paper into shreds and scattering them to the wind, or placing the paper into flowing water, a stream or a sink, or burning it safely in a fireproof bowl. As you do so, chant or whisper, I honor the past. I release its hold. I carry its wisdom forward. 4. Conclude with a moment of stillness. Sit quietly for a few breaths, feeling the lightness that emerges when the backpack stone is laid down. Rituals tap into our embodied intelligence. They help our heart and mind align in the work of release. 7. Compassionate reframing. Often, regret stems from identifying our entire self with a moment, I am the person who did that. But Buddhism's teaching of non-self reminds us that we are not fixed. We are ever becoming, a river of moments, each shaping the next but never wholly defining us. Practice. Reframing self. Identity. 1. Notice self-labels. When regret arises, listen for inner statements like, I am. 2. Shift to action-based framing. Replace, I am a failure, with, I did something unskillful. Notice the subtle shift in tone and space it allows. 3. Reaffirm non-fixed self. Remind yourself, I am a dynamic being, learning moment by moment. This shift dissolves the prison of regret-bound identity and opens doors to curiosity and growth. Bar, community and confession. In many Buddhist traditions, confession, sayoyana kiriya, is practiced as a way to purify the heart. It involves speaking one's unskillful actions aloud to a trusted community or teacher, then resolving to change. Sharing our regrets in a safe container dispels shame's secret power. We discover we are not alone. Others, too, carry stones in their backpacks. In community, we can support one another's liberation from regret. If a formal sangha is unavailable, find a trusted friend or counselor. Speak your remorse plainly. Then anchor your heart in the intention to act differently. The simple act of voicing regret aloud begins the unraveling of its power. 9. Embracing the present moment. Ultimately, letting go of past regrets is about reorienting our heart and our awareness to the present moment. Regret tethers us to what was. Mindfulness anchors us in what is. When regret surges, you can 1. Pause and breathe. Sense the ground beneath your feet, the breath in your lungs. 2. Note the regret. There is regret. 3. Turn attention to the now. Feel the aliveness of the present sounds, sensations, the beating of your heart. 4. Invoke a grounding mantra, something like, I am here now, or this moment is enough. This practice reminds us that regret cannot live in the same space as full presence. The more we inhabit now, the less we suffer from what cannot be changed. 10. The freedom beyond regret. Letting go of past regrets is not a single victory. It is an ongoing unfolding dance between memory and mindfulness, sorrow and compassion, remorse and renewal. Each time we pause, soften, and release the if only loop, we unburden ourselves and reclaim the energy to live wisely. As the Zen teacher Thich Nhat Hanh said, there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. In the same way, there is no way to freedom from regret. Freedom is the way. The continuous practice of acknowledgement, compassion, intention, and presence. May you, In unstacking the stones of regret one by one, feel the lightness of an unclenched heart. May you carry forward the gifts hidden in every misstep: greater self-understanding, deeper empathy, and a living commitment to awaken here, now. And in that awakened presence, may all regrets dissolve into wisdom's river, flowing effortlessly toward an ever-unfolding compassion and peace. We spend so much of our lives in story estuaries about the past, stories about the future, stories we tell ourselves about who we are, what we deserve, and what must come next. Yet the only place life ever truly happens is here, right now, in the unfolding present. Embracing the present moment fully is both the culmination and the heart of the path we've been walking together. From recognizing the ego, awakening to pure awareness, learning to let go, cultivating mindfulness, and finally arriving at this invitation to live, love, and sleep in the freshness of each breath. The gift and challenge of now. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff at dawn. You feel the cool air on your skin. Hear the hush of wind and bird call. See the first pastel blush of sunrise. For a moment, all stories fade, and you are completely awake to the miracle of life stirring around you. That vivid aliveness is the gift of the present moment. Yet most waking moments lack such dramatic flair. The phone buzzes. The mind ticks through errands and worries. The eyes glaze over as you check email. We mistake this habitual busyness for living, while the richness of each moment slips by unnoticed. The challenge then is not to find extraordinary circumstances, but to bring presence to ordinary life. Washing dishes, waiting at a red light, sipping tea can become a portal into full presence. The Buddha said, "Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." This simple instruction is a lifelong practice, an ever-deepening skill. 2. Why now matters. Why does it matter to embrace the present? Because the present is the only place we have agency. Past regrets we've explored, future worries we've learned to accept, but our power to shape life lies in this unfolding moment. When we sink fully into now, we break the cycle of rumination. Regret and anxiety feed on thought loops. Presence dissolves them by shifting attention to sensory experience. We transform relationships. When we truly listen to someone without planning our response or replaying yesterday's argument, they feel heard and connection deepens. We find joy in simple acts. A meal becomes a feast of flavor. A walk becomes a dance of sensation. A conversation becomes an encounter with aliveness. We soothe the nervous system. Presence anchors us in safety. The body relaxes, the mind calms, and rest becomes possible. In short, presence is not a luxury, it is the condition for true well-being. 3. Cultivating moment-to-moment awareness. Presence is not a switch we flip. It is a muscle we strengthen. Here are practices to weave into daily life. A. The 5 sense pause. At regular intervals, pause and note each sense in turn. 1. See what colors, shapes, movements are before you. 2. Hear what sounds fill the space near and far. 3. Feel what sensations arise in the body: temperature, pressure, tingling. See, smell. Are there scents: coffee, rain, fabric, perfume? 5. Taste. Even without food, note the taste or dryness in the mouth. This simple survey brings the mind out of thought and into direct experience. B. Single tasking. Choose one activity: eating, walking, typing, and resolve to do only that. When the mind wanders, gently return. Notice how depth replaces speed and satisfaction emerges from undivided attention. C. Anchor in breath. Use the breath as a home base. Whether sitting, standing, or moving, periodically return attention to one full inhale and exhale. Let the breath remind you, you are here, alive, now. 4. The story of Nara's tea ceremony. A Japanese monk named Nara once guided guests through a traditional tea ceremony. Each movement, wiping the bowl, pouring water, whisking matcha, was performed with such deliberation and presence that time seemed to slow. Guests described feeling as though they had stepped outside of time itself, into a sanctuary of utter stillness. Nara later explained, "When you offer tea like this, you are offering the moment the same moment that arises and passes in each breath. Presence is the true gift we share. This story reminds us that ritual, when infused with presence, becomes sacred. We do not need a formal ceremony. Our own life moments can hold this same quality when we slow down and attend deeply. 5. Overcoming resistance to now. Resistance to presence often arises when the present is uncomfortable boredom, pain, difficult emotions. The mind cries out, "Get me out of here." But the path of awakening requires us to learn the art of radical presence, welcoming each moment as a teacher. Practice welcoming what is. When you notice discomfort and ache in the back, a tight emotion, pause and bring full attention to it. Instead of turning away, say silently, "Welcome, friend." Feel the quality of the sensation, breathe into it. You will find that welcoming does not worsen discomfort, it softens it. Presence and acceptance together unravel the mind's resistance. 6. Presence in relationships. True presence transforms how we relate. Deep listening. When someone speaks, listen without planning your reply. Let their words land as if they were the only thing in your world. Reflective response. Pause before answering. Even a 2-second pause communicates care. Full engagement. Put away the phone. Face each other. Eye contact bridges inner and outer worlds. Presence in relationship not only deepens intimacy, but also reveals a sacred dimension. Each person, like you, is a container of hopes, sorrows, and longing. 2. The magic in mundanity. Everyday moments hold seeds of presence. Brushing teeth. Feel the bristles, the taste, the sound. Notice how the habit can become a meditation. Driving. Feel the steering wheel, hear the engine, sense the road. Driving becomes pilgrimage rather than chore. Walking. Sense your feet lifting and landing. Notice the swing of your arms. The path beneath becomes alive. When we reclaim these moments, life shifts from automatic pilot to dance. 8. Presence and sleep. Our final frontier of presence is often the threshold of sleep. To bring presence into the moment of drifting off. 1. Lie quietly. Feel the support of the bed. 2. Notice the breath. Let it be natural. 3. Scan the body. Note heaviness, tingling, pulse. 4. Allow thoughts to flow. Watch them drift without chasing. 5. Savor the sensation of falling. Each micro moment of sinking into rest is precious. By embracing each transition from wake to sleep with presence, we discover that sleep itself becomes a ceremony of surrender and renewal. 9. Integrating presence into your day. Here is a simple template to bring presence alive. Morning ritual. Before rising, take 3 mindful breaths. Set an intention. Today, I will bring gentle attention to each moment. Midday check-in. Pause at lunch. Practice the 5 sense pause. Evening reflection. Before bed, recall 3 moments when you were fully present. Give thanks for the gift of awareness. These anchors keep presence from remaining abstract, weaving it into the fabric of your life. 10. The freedom of awake living. When we embrace the present moment fully, we discover that life itself is lit from within. There is a spontaneity, a curiosity, a sense of wonder that awakens. We are no longer trapped in the regrets of yesterday or the anxieties of tomorrow. Instead, we meet each moment as a fresh canvas, painted by our awareness. This is the essence of pure awareness. We first introduced a timeless presence that underlies every fleeting event. As you cultivate presence, you come home to that groundless ground, the ever-present stage on which life dances. Reflection and practice. Take a few moments now to sit quietly. Notice your breath. Gently open your senses. Feel the aliveness of this very moment. No need to label it good or bad. Simply be here. This simple act of presence is the culmination of our journey, a portal into deep rest, deep peace, and deep wisdom. May you carry this gift of now into every breath, every step, every dream. There is an ancient practice that costs nothing, yet yields immeasurable riches of the heart. It is gratitude. In the Buddhist tradition, gratitude is not merely a polite thank you or a fleeting sense of appreciation. It is a powerful lens that reorients the mind away from lack, complaint, and the ceaseless cravings of the ego toward the abundance already present in each breath, each step, each moment. Cultivating gratitude daily becomes a transformative practice, one that softens the heart, lowers the walls of separation, and opens us to the vast generosity of life itself. 1. Why gratitude matters. From the moment we wake until the moment we sleep, our attention is often hijacked by what we don't have. Unfinished tasks, unmet expectations, fears of the future, regrets about the past. This wanting mind fuels anxiety, restlessness, and discontent. Gratitude offers an antidote. When we train our awareness to notice what is nourishing relationships, simple comforts, the beauty of nature, small kindnesses, we shift from scarcity to sufficiency, from striving to resting. The Buddha himself recommended reflecting on the Kalyana Mittatarth, goodness of spiritual friends and benefactors. He spoke of the 4 blessings, Brahma Viharas: loving, kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, and equanimity. Gratitude underpins and amplifies each of these qualities. When we recognize the kindness of others, our hearts open in loving kindness. When we acknowledge our own suffering and the support we receive, compassion deepens. When we celebrate the joys of others, empathetic joy arises. And when we accept life's ups and downs with gratitude, equanimity ripens. 2. A story of awakening through gratitude. In a mountain monastery lived a monk named Dipa. He was diligentizing before dawn, meditating through the chill of the pre-dawn air, studying sutras by candlelight. Yet Dipa carried a heavy heart. He had lost his family in a flood years before, and, though he had found refuge in the Dharma, sorrow often eclipsed his practice. One dawn, his teacher invited him to gather water from a spring at the foot of the mountain. As he walked, Dipa felt only the cold ache of loneliness. At the spring, his teacher handed him a small cup carved from bamboo. "Drink," the teacher said. Dipa sipped and noticed how sweet and pure the water tasted in the cold air. "Look around," the teacher continued. "How many have this gift today? The breath, the mountain, the spring, this moment. Name 5 things you are grateful for before you drink again." "Embol?" Dipa hesitated, then began. "The mountain that shelters me, the spring that nourishes me, the trees that sing in the wind, the sunlight dancing on the leaves." This teacher's kindness. With each acknowledgement, warmth spread through his body, and the cold ache in his chest softened. He drank again, and this time the water seemed to glow. In that simple practice of naming blessings, Dipa's sorrow and gratitude intertwined, and he felt his heart expand. From that day on, each morning he would pause at dawn, list 5 gratitudes, and drink deeply from the spring, reminding himself that life's foundation is built not on what's missing, but on what's given. 3. Core elements of a gratitude practice. To make gratitude a daily practice, we weave 3 essential elements into our lives: awareness, expression, and embodiment. Awareness. Noticing blessings. The first step is simply to notice. Gratitude cannot arise if we never look. Use any of these anchors to awaken your attention. Morning pause. Before rising, lie still for a moment. Feel the breath, the warmth of your sheets, the sound of morning light. Mentally note 3 things you appreciate as you open your eyes. Gratitude walk. During a brief walk around your home, office, or neighborhood, notice elements of nature, architecture, or human kindness. Name them inwardly. "I'm grateful for this tree's shade, for the neighbor's wave, for the breeze on my face." Meal mindfulness. As you prepare or sit down to eat, scan the plate. Were hands involved farmers, cooks, you? Acknowledge the chain of care. "I'm grateful for the earth that grew this food, for the cook's skill, for the nourishment it brings." Each moment of noticing awakens a direct experience of blessing. B. Expression. Giving thanks. Awareness blossoms fully when we express gratitude, whether silently, in writing, or out loud. Expression connects mind and heart, creating neural pathways that reinforce appreciation. Gratitude journal. Each evening, jot down 3 things that went well that day, however small. Over time, you'll build a record of goodness that counters the mind's negativity bias. Thank you notes. Write a brief note, email, or text to someone who brightened your day: barista, teacher, friend, or family member. Even a sentence or two fosters warmth for both giver and receiver. Verbal acknowledgement. In conversation, pause to verbally acknowledge, "Thank you for listening," or "I appreciate your support." These small acknowledgements deepen connection. C. Embodiment. Living with an open heart. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it is a way of being. We embody gratitude when our actions flow from appreciation, generosity, and humility. Generous action. When gratitude wells up, let it guide your deeds. Donate time, attention, or resources to causes and people you value. Goodwill loops back to nurture your own heart. Humble reflection. Recognize that your abilities, opportunities, and achievements arise from countless causes: family, teachers, luck, community. Say inwardly, "I stand on the shoulders of many," which anchors humility and gratitude. Gratitude rituals. Create simple rituals: lighting a candle at mealtime, touching a gratitude stone in your pocket, or taking 3 deep breaths and silently saying "thank you" to life, so that gratitude becomes woven into your physiology. 4. Overcoming common obstacles. Even with the best intentions, gratitude practice can falter. Here are common obstacles and ways to work with them. I have nothing to be grateful for. Often a sign of depression or deep stress. Begin small: the inhalation, the warmth of clothing, or the fact of being alive. Practice gently until a wider field opens. Distraction and busyness. If a journal feels too formal, use voice memos, sticky notes, or a one-word daily entry on your phone. Fit gratitude into existing routines: brushing teeth, waiting for water to boil. Comparisons and envy. When you see others' success, you might feel envy rather than gratitude. Shift perspective. Admire their achievements as evidence that such goodness is possible. Then say, "May I too find moments of joy." Imperfection of practice. There will be days you forget or feel too tired. Gently return. Gratitude is not perfection, it is a compassionate habit. Woo, the science of gratitude. Contemporary research confirms what ancient wisdom taught long ago: improved well-being. Regular gratitude practice correlates with increased positive emotions, life satisfaction, and optimism. Reduce stress and anxiety. Noticing blessings lowers cortisol levels and calms the nervous system. Enhanced relationships. Expressing thanks deepens bonds and fosters trust. Better sleep. Gratitude journals and reflections before bed improve sleep quality by reducing rumination. These findings align perfectly with the path of Buddhist practice. Noticing causes of well-being, cultivating wholesome states, and releasing unhelpful mental habits. 6. A guided gratitude practice. To integrate gratitude deeply, here is a 40-day scaffolded practice. Each week builds on the previous, embedding gratitude in mind, heart, and action. Week 1. Daily listing. Each morning or evening, list 3 things you're grateful for. Be specific. I'm grateful for the taste of my coffee this morning. Week 2. Expanding awareness. Add a gratitude pause midday. Take 3 breaths. Name 1 fresh blessing. Week 3. Expressing thanks. Send at least 1 gratitude note per week. It can be a text, email, or handwritten card. Week 4. Embodied generosity. Each day, perform 1 small act of generosity in response to gratitude. Pay a compliment. Donate spare change. Volunteer a few minutes. Week 5 and beyond. Sustained integration. Continue elements from weeks 1-4. Notice shifts in your mood and relationships. Adapt practices to suit your life. Rhythm: perhaps a weekly gratitude walk, a monthly letter, or a family mealtime reflection. NT. Gratitude's ripple effect. When gratitude moves from private reflection into shared experience, its impact multiplies. Consider these possibilities. Family rituals. At the dinner table, invite each person to name 1 gratitude of the day. This simple ritual fosters connection and shifts focus from complaints to blessings. Workplace culture. Begin meetings with a gratitude check-in, 1 thing employees appreciate in the team or project. This cultivates positive morale and collaboration. Community gatherings. In group meditations, dedicate a portion to metta loving, kindness, and gratitude opening hearts towards self, loved ones, difficult people, and all beings. Through such collective practices, gratitude weaves into the social fabric, strengthening bonds and uplifting collective spirit. Deepening with Buddhist wisdom. As our practice matures, we can deepen gratitude through specific Buddhist reflections. Gratitude for impermanence. Reflect on how transience makes each moment precious. I am grateful that this moment will never come again. Gratitude for non-self. Acknowledge that you are not an isolated self, but a nexus of causes and conditions. I am grateful for the lineage of teachers, the elements, and the teammates that form me. Gratitude for suffering. Paradoxically, we can thank difficult experiences for their lessons. I am grateful for my struggles, for they have taught me compassion. Gratitude for pure awareness. Rest in the silent witness that underlies all phenomena. I am grateful to simply be. These reflections frame gratitude not just as reaction to pleasant conditions, but as a universal posture toward life itself. Gratitude's gift to sleep. Remembering blessings before rest is a potent way to invite peaceful sleep. 1. Evening reflection. As you lie in bed, recall 3 moments of goodness from the day, big or small. 2. Soft phrases. Whisper inwardly, "Thank you for this moment," with each breath. 3. Visual anchor. Imagine a warm light or gentle mountain holding your body, symbolizing life's care. Drifting to sleep from this soil of gratitude calms the mind's endless chatter and allows rest to emerge naturally. 10. The heart that remains open. Gratitude is not a denial of life's difficulties. It does not ask us to ignore pain or hardship. Rather, it invites us to hold joy and sorrow side by side with an open heart. In that spaciousness, we discover the true richness of existence, that even in the midst of challenge, life offers innumerable gifts, and in recognizing them, we become agents of blessing ourselves. As you carry gratitude into each new day, may your heart widen. May your mind rest in the simple wonder of being alive. May the echoes of appreciation ripple outward, touching all beings. May we all be grateful. May we all see the abundance in each breath. May we all share kindness and presence. May our hearts remain open to life's myriad gifts. Amid the churn of modern life, emails flowing in by the minute, constant news alerts, the ceaseless demands of work and family patience can feel like a rare and precious commodity. We find ourselves rushing from task to task, frustrated by delays, irritated by interruptions, and anxious at the thought of unfilled to-do lists. Yet Buddhism teaches that impatience is like a small fire that consumes our peace and clouds our clarity. Cultivating patience is not about passive resignation. It is an active, skillful practice that anchors us in equanimity, steadies our heart under pressure, and allows us to face chaos with calm resilience. Ain. Understanding patience in Buddhist terms. In Pali, the term for patience is khanti, which carries the connotations of long suffering, forbearance, and gentle endurance. It is one of the paramis perfections cultivated on the path to awakening. But khanti is not a stoic silence in the face of injustice or harm. Rather, it is the capacity to hold difficulty without aggression, without habitual reactivity. When we practice khanti, we develop the spaciousness to observe adversity, external or internal, without being swept away by it. Buddhism identifies 3 kinds of patience. 1. Patience in the face of suffering, accepting physical or emotional pain without resistance. Patience with others, bearing the flaws and challenging behaviors of people around us. 3. Patience in learning and practice, persevering on the path, despite obstacles and slow progress. Each form of patience strengthens the others, weaving a tapestry of resilience that holds steady in the most turbulent times. 2. The cost of impatience. To see why patience matters, consider the cost of its opposite. Impatience often manifests as irritability at minor delays, long line, a broken device, an unexpected email, rushed decisions that lead to mistakes and regret, a busy mind that never slows down, fueling anxiety and sleepless nights, strained relationships as we snap at loved ones for inconsequential reasons, physical tension, clenched jaws, tight shoulders, shallow breathing. Impatience is a thief. It steals our capacity to enjoy the moment, to respond wisely, and to rest deeply. In contrast, patience opens the door to spaciousness, creativity, and compassion. 3. A story of patience in practice. On an island monastery, a student once approached the abbot in frustration. "Master," he said, "I have been practicing meditation for months, but my mind remains wild thoughts, gallop like wild horses. I cannot find calm." The abbot replied, "Go tend the fish pond." Puzzled, the student spent the next weeks caring for the pond, clearing algae, catching stray fish, fixing leaks. Each day, he moved slowly, attentively, with humility. Over time, he noticed subtle shifts. The water cleared, the fish thrived, and his own mind, mirroring the pond, grew still. When he returned to the abbot smiled. "The pond taught you patience. That stillness comes through gentle, persistent care, not through force." Like the pond, our capacity for patience deepens when we cultivate it through daily, attentive practice, not by forcing ourselves to be patient, but by engaging skillfully with the moments that test us. 4. Core practices for cultivating patience. A. The pause and breathe technique. When you feel irritation rising, your email stalls, traffic stalls, a child complains, catch the impulse to react. Pause. Place a hand over your heart. Take 3 slow, full breaths. Each exhale whispers, "Patience." This simple interlude rebalances your nervous system, creating the space needed to respond rather than react. B. Reframing delays as practice bells. Buddhists use a bell of mindfulness, an actual bell sound, to remind themselves to return to awareness. Similarly, you can treat everyday delays, waiting in line, buffering videos, delayed texts, practice bells. Each delay is an opportunity to notice impatience and apply a compassionate response. Thank you for the reminder. May I rest here a moment. C. Loving kindness towards self and others. When someone else's actions trigger impatience, an abrupt coworker, a slow driver, pause and silently wish them well. May you be at ease. May you find peace. Extending metta to the source of our irritation dissolves anger and opens our heart to understanding. We recognize that everyone is subject to frustration and suffering, just like us. 5. Transforming internal turmoil. Impatience often arises from internal narratives. "I don't have enough time. This shouldn't be happening. I'll be late." These stories fan the flames of stress. Buddhist insight invites us to notice such narratives as mental events, not fixed realities. Practice noting the narrative. E. Notice the story playing in your mind. "I can't believe this cue." 2. Label it, thinking, or storytelling. 3. Return to the body. Feel the feet on the ground, the breath in the belly. 4. Ask, "What can I do now?" skillfully. Often, none of the stories matter for the present moment. 6. Patience with others. In relationships, impatience can fracture trust, but patience nurtures connection. When a friend is late, or a partner is distracted, or a colleague misunderstands, we can choose to listen fully rather than preparing our rebuttal. Acknowledge their perspective. "I see you're upset. I'm here." Offer space for them to process, without prodding for immediate resolution. By making room for others' humanness, just as we wish they would for ours, build stronger, more compassionate bonds. T. Patience in practice and learning. The path of inner transformation itself demands patience. Progress is rarely linear. Some days feel expansive, others feel stuck. In meditation, you may sit for an hour one day, with ease, and struggle the next. Practice. Beginner's mind. Approach each practice session as if you are new. Release expectations. Notice the quality of effort, whether gentle or forced. Smile inwardly at both restlessness and calm. Remember the wisdom of Shoshin Buddhist beginner's mind, where every moment offers fresh discovery. 8. Rituals to anchor patience. Ritual can help embody patience. Tea ceremony. Prepare tea with deliberate slowness, heating the water, measuring the leaves, whisking, savoring each sip. Walking meditation. Walk a short path back and forth, placing each foot with attention. Let each step be a testament to patience. Bell of return. Use a chime or phone app to remind yourself hourly to pause, breathe, and reflect on patience. These rituals transform time itself from adversary to alibi, embedding mindful pauses in your day. 9. Embracing uncertainty. At its core, impatience is an attempt to control uncertain outcomes. We want certainty news updates, project deliveries, health recoveries. Buddhism teaches that all phenomena are conditioned and impermanent. Embracing uncertainty is an act of radical patience. Practice surrendering to uncertainty. When faced with news you cannot change, test results, market shifts, travel delays, practice turning toward the unknown with open hands. Repeat silently, I do not know, I cannot control this. May I rest in this not knowing. In this stance, patience and trust grow together. Sure, the fruit of patience. As patience deepens, y fruit émerge. Clarity of mind, no longer clouded by reactive thoughts. Less physical tension, as the body relaxes from habitual gripping. Greater creativity, since a calm mind can see solutions blocked by stress. Stronger relationships, nourished by genuine presence and understanding. Deeper rest, as impatience, driven insomnia, gives way to peaceful surrender. These outcomes reinforce the practice, creating a virtuous cycle of ease and insight. 11. Practicing amidst crisis. True test of patience arises in crisis, health emergencies, personal loss, societal upheavals. Yet these times also offer profound opportunities to ground in Khanti. In a crisis, 1. Honor emotions. Allow fear, grief, or anger to be present without self-judgment. 2. Prioritize breath. Regularly return attention to the breath as anchor. 3. Seek community. Share burdens with trusted others, allowing collective patience to support you. 4. Focus on next right action. Rather than fixating on the big unknown, ask, what is the next skillful step I can take now? In this way, patience becomes not passive waiting, but courageous endurance. Shah. Conclusion. Patience as path and destination. Cultivating patience is both a path, the daily practices, rituals, and mindful interventions, and a destination, the steady heart that welcomes each moment. In Buddhist terms, patience dissolves the second arrow of suffering, our reaction to adversity, and reveals the space of pure awareness beneath turmoil. As you walk through your day, may the practice of Khanti become as natural as breathing. May each delay be a bell reminding you to return to presence. May each challenge be an invitation to deepen equanimity. And may the steady flame of patience illuminate your path, guiding you gently through chaos into the heart of peace. In the garden of the mind, expectations can take root, like invasive vines. We plant seeds of, I expect this result, I need that outcome, and watch as our peace withers under the chokehold of anticipation, disappointment, and perpetual striving. Yet, Buddhism offers a liberating remedy. Detach from outcomes and expectations, while remaining fully engaged in effort and intention. This paradox, acting wholeheartedly without clinging to results, is the heart of skillful living and the key to inner freedom. 1. The nature of expectation. Expectation is simply a mental grasping for a particular future. It arises when we believe our happiness or self-worth depends on achieving a desired result, securing a job offer, earning praise, or seeing a loved one behave as we wish. When reality diverges from our script, suffering ensues. Frustration, resentment, self-doubt, and anxiety. In the Buddha's teaching, tanha, craving, and upadana, clinging, underlie this suffering. We crave a favorable outcome and cling to the expectation it brings. When the world disappoints us, the second arrow of disappointment to resistance to what wounds us deeper than the first arrow of unmet desire. 2. Acting without attachment, the principle of right effort. Buddhism does not advocate passivity. On the contrary, the Noble Eightfold Path includes right effort, the energized intention to cultivate wholesome qualities and abandon unwholesome ones. Right effort is about doing our best, moment to moment, without guaranteeing a specific result. Imagine a farmer tending her fields. She prepares the soil, plants seeds, waters the crops, and protects them from pests. but she cannot control the weather, the growth rate, or the exact harvest yield. She does her diligent work, the right effort, and entrusts the outcome to the conditions beyond her control. In this balanced approach, she finds peace in the labor itself, rather than fixation on a bumper crop. 3. A story of detached engagement. Consider the tale of Kibi, a young court musician in ancient India. Eager to impress the king, she practiced day and night, perfecting her instrument and compositions. She envisioned the king's praise, the honor she would bring to her family, the fame that might follow. On the day of the royal performance, Kibi's hands trembled with expectation. She played her heart out, yet halfway through, a string snapped and her melody faltered. In the hush that followed, she braced for humiliation. Instead, the king rose and bowed. "Your dedication is evident," he said. "The broken string makes your courage shine more brightly than perfection ever could." Kibi learned that day, our best effort, offered with openness, carries its own dignity. The string's break did not diminish her worth. Her wholehearted presence transcended the outcome. 4. Practice. Offering your effort freely. How, in daily life, do we detach from outcomes while remaining engaged? Here are concrete steps. A. Clarify intention. Before beginning any task, writing an email, preparing a presentation, engaging in a conversation, ask yourself, what is my intention? What quality do I wish to cultivate? Clarity, kindness, creativity. Ground your effort in these values, rather than in a specific external result. My intention is to share information clearly, rather than, I must receive approval. B. Do the next right thing. Focus on the immediate action before the next right step. Worrying about far-off consequences distracts from skillful presence. Each moment, ask, what is the next right thing I can do with care? Then do it wholeheartedly, and let go. C. Witness without judging. After you act, observe the outcome with curiosity, not judgment. If things go well, say internally, good, that aligns with my intention. If they don't, note, this outcome did not match my expectation. Then return to presence and choose your next response. This witnessing stance prevents emotional reactivity. 5. Unpacking the success trap. Our culture equates success with happiness. We pursue promotions, likes, followers, and accolades, as if they could finally quiet the mind's chatter. But each success brings new expectations. Now I must maintain this level. Next, I must achieve more. The success trap is an endless treadmill. Buddhism asks us to see success as phala, vedana, temporary feeling of pleasure at a result. When we attach our identity to phala vedana, we court suffering, fear of loss, comparison with others, and relentless striving. Instead, we practice apunyathathe, relinquishment of attachment to outcomes. We enjoy the taste of success without arming it as our fortress of self-worth. 6. Practice contemplating impermanence of results. A brief meditation can help dissolve outcome clinging. 1. Sit quietly and recall a recent success, a compliment, an achievement, a goal realized. 2. Notice the pleasant feeling that arises. Savor it. 3. Reflect on its impermanent nature. This feeling will pass. Circumstances change. 4. Sit with the impermanence until the pleasant feeling shifts into neutral awareness. 5. Offer metta. May I and all beings rest in peace beyond outcomes. Andari. Through this practice, you learn to enjoy successes fully, then release them with grace. 7. Managing expectations in relationships. Expectations often cause friction in our closest bonds. We expect partners, friends, or family members to behave a certain way. When reality diverges, resentment grows. Practice communicating needs versus expectations. Identify needs, e.g., I need support when I'm stressed, separate from expectations, e.g., you must always know when I'm stressed. Express needs with clarity. I would appreciate if you asked me how my day went. Andari. Release expectations of mind reading. Allow space for the other to respond in their own way and time. By distinguishing needs from rigid expectations, relationships become more fluid, compassionate, and resilient. 8. Letting go of perfectionism. Perfectionism is the most insidious form of outcome attachment, the expectation of flawlessness. It poisons effort with self-criticism and procrastination. Practice the good enough exercise. 1. Choose a task you tend to over-perfect: writing an email, cleaning a room, preparing a meal. 2. Set a timer for a reasonable duration. Commit to doing your best within that time, then stopping. 3. Notice any inner voices urging you to continue refining. Acknowledge them as perfectionist thoughts. 4. Pause when the timer rings, even if you feel incomplete. Celebrate the task as good enough. This exercise builds trust that good enough truly is enough, liberating you from futile retries. 9. Embracing uncertainty of outcomes. When we detach from specific outcomes, we must grow comfortable with uncertainty. The future, by its very nature, is unknown. Buddhism calls this impermanence and invites us to welcome uncertainty as the ever-changing backdrop of life. Practice the not knowing pause. When facing a decision with unknown results: job change, relationship step, personal goal take, a not knowing pause. Sit with the uncertainty. I do not know how this will unfold. And notice bodily sensations, perhaps tension or restlessness. Breathe into these sensations, offering them space. Affirm, I trust in my capacity to respond with wisdom, no matter the outcome. This pause grounds you in presence, reducing fear of the unknown. 10. The fruit of outcome-free effort. As you practice detachment from outcomes, you may notice profound shifts. Joy in the process. Work becomes play. Creativity flows unblocked by fear of failure. Resilience. Setbacks no longer derail your spirit. You pivot with acceptance. Inner peace. The roller coaster of elation and despair steadies into balanced equanimity. Deepened relationships. Without demanding specific responses, you connect more genuinely. Authentic self-worth. You no longer need external validation. Your sense of dignity rests in presence. These fruits reveal the true power of right effort, untainted by clinging. 11. Integrating into daily life. To weave this practice into your routine, consider these anchor points. Morning intention. Upon waking, set an intention to act without attachment. Today, I will do my best and let results flow. Midday reflection. Pause over lunch. Ask, where am I clinging to an outcome? Release it with 3 mindful breaths. Evening review. Reflect on your day's efforts. Note successes and shortcomings without judgment. Offer gratitude for your effort. Over weeks, these anchors transform outcome fixation into gentle presence. Detaching from outcomes and expectations is not an abdication of responsibility, nor a denial of ambition. It is a mature embrace of life's unpredictability, paired with wholehearted engagement. We learn to sow seeds of intention, water them with care, and then release them to the sun and rain of conditions beyond our control. In the words of the Buddha, work diligently, O monks, without attachment, without pride or conceit, and abide in freedom. As you continue along this path, may you discover that the purest harvest comes not from clinging to what you want, but from trusting in your own presence, wisdom, and compassion, qualities that flourish when the mind rests unburdened by the weight of fixed expectations. We spend lifetimes chasing happiness as though it were a distant destination. The next promotion, the perfect relationship, the dream vacation, the milestone accomplishment. Yet each arrival brings only a fleeting mirror of joy, followed by the same restlessness and yearning. Buddhism teaches that genuine, unshakable happiness is not out there waiting to be earned, but in here, already present beneath the layers of craving, aversion, and illusion. To awaken to this inner wellspring is the heart of authentic freedom. 1. The mirage of external happiness. Picture a traveler in the desert, fatigued and parched, who glimpses a shimmering pool on the horizon. With hope soaring, she races toward it only to find the oasis vanish as she draws near. So it is with pleasures of the senses and achievements of the world, promising relief, yet always dissolving into new longings. Buddhism names these transient pleasures sukha, brief, ease, or contentment tied to external conditions, and contrasts them with paramasukha, the fullest happiness arising from awakening itself. The mind that clings to sukha remains on the hedonic treadmill. We get a brief lift, then fall back into craving. We believe happiness depends on favorable states, health, comfort, accolades, but when those are lost, so too is our joy. 2. The seed of true happiness. The Buddha spoke of 3 gateways to lasting happiness: ethical conduct, sila, mental discipline, samadhi, and wisdom, panya. These form the scaffold for discovering the inner refuge. Ethical conduct, sila. Acting with kindness, honesty, and generosity creates a foundation of integrity that frees the heart from remorse and regret. Mental discipline, samadhi. Cultivating mindfulness and concentration stills the inner turbulence, revealing the clarity that lies beneath. Wisdom, panya. Seeing the true nature of impermanence, non-self, and interdependence dissolves the illusions that fuel suffering. Together, these practices nurture paramasukhathe, happiness that arises when mind and heart are unburdened by craving. 3. A story of the inner spring. Long ago, in a remote Himalayan hermitage, a young seeker named Tashi arrived, yearning for the bliss of enlightenment. She spent years traversing perilous paths to sacred sites, undertaking austerities, and mastering elaborate rituals. Yet her inner restlessness remained. One winter morning, an aged master invited her to fetch water from a nearby spring. Tashi descended the mountain, breaking ice on the stream, hauled back heavy buckets, and offered the water with reverence. As she did, she noticed how the cold liquid glowed in her cupped hands, reflecting the dawn sky. In that simple act unadorned by ritual or aspiration, her heart filled with ease. She drank deeply, and for the first time, her mind stilled. She realized the spring of peace she sought in distant travels was flowing here all along, in the ordinary moment of service. This is the essence of true happiness, recognizing and resting in the ever-present spring of awareness, accessible in even the humblest tasks. 4. Practice, turning inward to discover contentment. How can we root ourselves in this inner happiness? Here are practices to guide the way. A. Ethical reflection. Each evening, reflect on one wholesome action you performed. Kind word, honest decision, generous gesture. Notice how integrity lifts the spirit. Let gratitude for your own goodness bloom in the heart. B. Mindful presence. Dedicate brief pauses throughout the day: morning wake-up, lunch break, just before sleep, to rest attention on the breath. In these pauses, taste the simplicity of being. Notice how peace arises when doing and thinking fade. C. Wisdom inquiry. When craving or aversion arises, desire for praise, fear of loss, ask gently, is this feeling permanent? Is this me? Or do I only perceive it as mine? What is the cost of believing this will bring lasting joy? Such inquiry loosens the grip of illusions, opening space for abiding ease. 5. The pitfalls of comparison. Comparison is the twin trap of craving. Gazing at others' fortunes, we measure ourselves by their standard and discover endless deficits. Social media amplifies this tendency. Highlight reels distort our view, fueling jealousy and self-doubt. Buddhist wisdom counsels contentment, Santu Teddy, the ability to rejoice in what we have. When comparison arises, 1. Notice the upward glance. Am I measuring against someone else? 2. Pause and breathe. San, affirm, may I be content with my own path. 4. Invoke empathetic joy. Mudita, I rejoice in your happiness. May your success inspire wisdom. Through contentment and mudita, we transform comparison into spacious celebration. 6. Embodied simplicity. True happiness thrives not in accumulation, but in simplicity. The Zen tradition speaks of the beggar's bowl, attitude embracing just what is necessary, no more, no less. Excess possessions clutter mind and heart, anchoring us in unending maintenance and fear of loss. Practice radical simplicity. Choose one area of life wardrobe, home, digital life, and simplify. Donate unused items. Unsubscribe from unnecessary media. Limit multitasking devices. With each release, feel the lightness and clarity that space brings. Simplicity nurtures inner ease. 7. Gratitude revisited. The ground of happiness. We have explored gratitude before, but here we deepen, Genuine gratitude embraces not only pleasure, but also difficulty. Seeing all experiences as teachers, practice the 3 blessings at day's end. 1. Blessing of support. Recognize 1 support people, nature, or circumstances that aided you. 2. Blessing of challenge. Acknowledge a difficulty that taught you resilience or compassion. San. Blessing of presence. Give thanks for this moment's breath, awareness, and capacity to be alive. This triad roots us in a holistic gratitude that underpins lasting contentment. 8. Embracing joy in the ordinary. True happiness is woven from the warp and weft of ordinary life, moments, morning sunlight, the taste of tea, the laughter of a child, the rhythm of breath. When we pay attention, each moment contains its own treasure. Practice the noticing walk. During an ordinary walk around your block or to the mailbox, slow down deliberately. Note 3 small wonders: a leaf's pattern, a bird's call, a neighbor's smile. Let curiosity and delight arise. Return home, carrying these tiny lights in your heart. 9. Self-compassion, the root of inner joy. Often, we withhold compassion from ourselves, denying our innate worthiness. Yet self-compassion, meta-directed inward, is essential to abiding happiness. When we meet our own mistakes and limitations with kindness, we release the self-judgment that darkens the inner landscape. Practice this brief, loving kindness. May I be peaceful. May I be gentle. May I be free from suffering. Repeat until your chest softens and a subtle warmth blooms. 10. The freedom of non-grasping. True happiness emerges when we let go of grasping, endeavoring to hold on to people, possessions, or achievements. Non-grasping, anupadana, is a profound practice, actively engaging in life without clinging to what arises. When you notice the urge to cling, I must not lose this job. I must keep this friend close. Pause and reflect. What if everything changed? Could I remain open to love and meaning, even amid loss? In this pause, freedom unfolds. 11. Integration into daily life. To bring these insights into your rhythm, morning intention. Before arising, rest 3 breaths in awareness. Offer gratitude for inner presence, acknowledging that happiness begins within. Midday reflection. Pause after lunch to notice 1 simple joy and 1 hardship, embracing both as steps along the path. Evening ritual. Light a candle or dim lights. Journal 1 insight about inner happiness. Whisper a gratitude for your own capacity to feel and be present. 12. The ever-present refuge. As we conclude this chapter, remember, true happiness is not a far-off mountain peak. It is the ground beneath every step, the unspoken presence that pervades each moment. Wherever you stand, at work, at home, in stillness, pause and ask, am I resting in the source of this moment? Beneath the swirl of thoughts is a spacious clarity, a loving kindness, an ease that needs no object. That is the eternal spring of happiness within. May you carry this realization forward. Happiness is not a distant goal, but the ever-present capacity to meet life with open heart and steady mind. In this realization, you are free. As we arrive at the final section of this 20-part odyssey, it may feel as though we have reached a destination, a summit of insight, a perfect map of the path. Yet Buddhism reminds us that awakening is not a static attainment, but a living, breathing journey. Letting go is not a one-time act, but a continuous unfolding, an ever-deepening dance between presence and release. In this closing exploration, we integrate the teachings we've traversed and look toward how this lifelong practice of letting go becomes our heart's home and our compass for wisdom-infused living. 1. The paradox of the path. From the very first moment of Part 2.1, where we loosened our identification with the ego, through the final contours of Part 2.19, where we discovered that true happiness is already within, each practice has pointed to a central paradox. The more we let go, the more fully we awaken. The more we surrender, the more powerfully we engage. The more we release, the more we receive. Letting go does not remove us from life's richness. It plunges us more deeply into it. It frees us from the self-imposed barriers of fear, craving, and regret that keep us fragmented, so we can live each moment with open heart, clear mind, and steady presence. 2. Integration. Weaving the threads together. To walk this journey continuously, we must learn to weave the individual threads into a seamless cloth of practice. Consider how each chapter interrelates. Illusion of ego, 2.1. Pure awareness, 2.2. Recognize that the stories we cling to are constructs. Rest in the spacious awareness that witnesses them. Letting go of attachments, 2.3. Mindfulness, 2.4. Acceptance, 5. See what you're holding, pay attention without grasping, and meet each experience with an open heart. Compassion, 2.6. Impermanence, 2.7. Transforming pain, 2.8. Soften toward your suffering. Understand the fluid nature of all things, and alchemize difficulty into wisdom. Silence, stillness, 2.9. Non-judgmental observation, 2.10. Loving kindness, 2.11. Self-forgiveness, 2.12. Releasing regrets. 14. Cultivate inner refuge. Watch thoughts clearly. Warm your heart. Forgive yourself and free your spirit from the bonds of yesterday. Presence in now, 2.15. Simplicity. Gratitude, 2.16. Patience. Surrender, 2.17. 2.17. Detaching outcomes, 2.15. Inner happiness, 2.19. Anchor in the current moment. Cherish what you have. Endure with trust. Release expectations, and taste the joy that blooms within. Each teaching supports and deepens the others. Practicing mindfulness enhances compassion. Self-forgiveness awakens gratitude. Embracing impermanence softens obsession with outcomes. This interwoven tapestry of techniques and insights becomes the living fabric of awakening. 3. A story of ongoing unfolding. Once, a devoted monk named Rengyo reached many milestones deep samadhi, profound insights, renowned for wisdom, and assumed he had arrived. He sat in stillness for days, expecting a towering revelation, but instead, subtle restlessness arose, a flicker of pride, a shadow of doubt about his practice, a longing for the next big awakening. And one morning, his teacher brought him a simple task: to carry water from the well to the monastery's tiny garden. Reversing the direction of the monk began decades ago. Tend the plants, the teacher said. Listen to them. For weeks, Rengyo watered young shoots, cleared weeds, and marveled at the changing patterns of light and rain. He discovered that no 2 days were the same. New buds emerged, insects visited, storms reshaped the earth, and he realized that practice, like the garden, is never completed. It is alive, dynamic, requiring constant care, attention, adaptation, and delight. In that humble labor, Rengyo felt his heart lighten. The chase for grand experiences fell away. He found contentment in small miracles, a blossom opening, a raindrop glistening on a leaf, the steady rhythm of his own breath. Like Rengyo, we learn that the path is not a linear ascent, but a spiral of practice, always bringing us back to the simple essentials and then deeper. Letting go is not a final act, but a perpetual invitation to return to this moment, again and again. 4. The subtle art of returning. In Zen, Zazen, seated meditation, is often described as just sitting. Yet behind the apparent simplicity lies a subtle art. Whenever the mind wanders, we gently return to posture and breath. Each return, no matter how many times, is itself the essence of practice. So it is with letting go and awakening. 1. Notice when you have drifted into clinging to a thought, a craving, a fear, a plan. 2. Pause even for a breath to interrupt the story loop. San. Return to presence. Your breath, your body, the open field of awareness. 4. Renew your intention to meet what arises with curiosity, compassion, and courage. These moments of return are not failures, they are the heartbeats of realization. Each one is a fresh opportunity to embody the teachings more fully. 5. Cultivating beginner's mind. A continuous journey demands that we hold a beginner's mind, Shoshana, stance of openness, eagerness, and lack of preconceptions, even, especially, after years of study. In beginner's mind, each moment feels like the first, each breath like the only, each sunrise like a new invitation. Practicing beginner's mind involves suspending assumptions. Approach each experience without expecting it to be like the last. Welcoming surprise. Let fresh details in the way light plays on a wall, the feel of air in your lungs. Valuing process over product. Celebrate the mystery of not knowing as the soil of creativity and wonder. In this way, our practice remains alive, not worn into stale grooves. Letting go is always fresh. Awakening is always renewing. 6. Building a sacred routine. To support the continuity of practice, many traditions emphasize daily routines anchor rituals that align us with core principles. You might consider building a simple, sustainable structure. Morning. 3 mindful breaths on waking, brief reflection on intention. May I let go of what binds me and rest in clarity. Midday. 5-minute silence or walking meditation. Gratitude pause, reminder of beginner's mind. Evening. Gentle body scan, metta for self and others. Reflection on 3 moments of mindful release. Intention for tomorrow. Customize these to your life. Consistency matters more than complexity. A few minutes each day, threaded through ordinary activities, becomes the ribbon that ties the journey together. 7. Community as catalyst. Though so much of this journey is inward, community sangha plays an essential role. Sharing practice with others offers mutual support in moments of challenge. Reflection mirrors, others gently pointing out blind spots. Collective energy that sustains motivation. Joys of shared celebration when breakthroughs occur. Whether a formal sangha, a meditation group, or a trusted circle of friends, community nurtures the continuous path of letting go and awakening. 8. Adapting across life seasons. Our practice must flex with life seasons, youth and vigor, midlife challenges, aging and illness. The tools we use and the challenges we face evolve. In youth, presence might mean managing academic or career stress. In parenting, compassion and patience become paramount. In elder years, surrender and gratitude deepen as health or roles change. By staying rooted in fundamental principles, mindfulness, compassion, equanimity, we adapt our practice without losing the thread of awakening. 9. Embracing the mystery. At the edge of wisdom lies a mystery that no concept can capture, the seamless whole of being that underlies all parts. Letting go opens us to this mystery, and mystery awakens wonder, humility, and love. When you encounter the unknown questions of life's meaning, experiences that defy explanation, paradoxes that baffle the mind, lean in with curiosity rather than fear. Let unknowing be a sacred gateway rather than an abyss. 10. The ultimate freedom. What is the fruit of this unending journey? It is freedom, not freedom from circumstances, but freedom in them. You remain present when the body aches, when plans crumble, when the heart breaks. You embody clarity when confusion ensues, compassion when anger flares, joy when delight arises. This freedom is freedom from the tyranny of expectations, from the shackles of ego, from the illusion that happiness lies elsewhere. It is the liberation of arriving home to yourself in every moment. 11. A final practice, the circle of letting go. To mark this culmination, try this simple, integrative practice. 1. Sit comfortably, eyes closed, hands resting. 2. Visualize a circle drawn in the air before you. Inside the circle, place all, your hopes, your anxieties, your attachments, your plans. 3. Inhale and feel the openness beneath these projections. 4. Exhale and imagine drawing the circle closed, not to trap, but to hold everything in a sacred space. Woo, say silently. All that arises within this circle may come and go. I rest as the space that holds it. 6. Pause in silence for a few breaths. Feel yourself as the unbounded ground. 7. When you finish, open your eyes, carrying the sense of spacious belonging into the next moment. This ceremony honors both effort and surrender, acknowledging the dance of form and emptiness at the core of our practice. 12. Moving forward with courage and love. As you step from these pages back into daily life, remember, practice is life. Every moment is practice. Every challenge, an opportunity to release and awaken. You are not alone. Across time and space, many have walked this path, and many will follow. Your own journey contributes to the collective awakening. Awakening is for everyone. This path is not reserved for monks or mystics, is available to each human heart, willing to let go and open. Love is the ground. At the core of all teaching lies love for yourself, love for others, love for the mystery of being. May you walk, sit, stand, and rest with the embodied wisdom you have cultivated. May each moment of release bring you closer to the unfettered radiance of pure awareness. And may your life be a living testament to the freedom that blooms when letting go becomes a continuous hymn of awakening. In every breath, you have practiced release. In every pause, you have touched presence. You have learned to see the ego's stories for what they are, passing ripples on the surface of a boundless lake, and to rest instead in the still clarity beneath. You have invited compassion to cradle your wounds, forgiveness to free your heart, and gratitude to shine gentle light into every corner of your life. You have tasted the sweetness of simplicity, the strength of patience, and the quiet power of surrender. And now, having walked this path from unveiling the illusion of self through awakening to pure awareness, from letting go of attachments through the full spectrum of mindfulness, acceptance, compassion, and loving kindness, to discovering that true joy resides within you, stand before a new horizon. Here there is no final destination, only the open road of practice that continues moment by moment, sunrise to sunset, waking life to the sanctuary of sleep. Let this conclusion not signal an ending, but serve as a compass for all the chapters yet to come. Whenever you find yourself clutching at outcomes, return to the breath. When you feel lost in thought, remember the watcher that quietly observes. When grief or anxiety visits, meet it with your own tender kindness. When pride swells, lean into humility. In the planning of tomorrow, pause to honor the gift of now. Your practice is simple. Notice, breathe, soften, and return. Notice when you've drifted away into craving, aversion, or regret. Breathe deeply, opening space. Soften your heart with compassion or gratitude. Return to presence, that ever-available refuge that is your truest home. May you carry these teachings into every corner of your life. May each moment of release bring you closer to the stillness that underlies all storms. May your sleep be cradled by the peace you cultivate, and may your waking hours be guided by the light of clear awareness and open-hearted love. In this continuous journey of letting go and awakening, you are never alone. All beings share this path, and each step you take lights the way for others. Walk on with courage, curiosity, and compassion, knowing that peace is not somewhere ahead, it is here, now, flowing through your very being.